Okay, I think we're unmuted now, everyone, and we're recording live. So it is a pleasure to open today's council meeting and the last council meeting of the triennium, which is always a momentous occasion. So a big welcome to everyone. And as we have done this triennium, we'll begin with karakia. Tue ki runga, tue ki raro, tue ki waho, tue ki roto. Tue ki te here tangata, karo mo te pō, karo mo te ao, hui e, tai ki e. Okay, thanks everyone. We have some reflections on the triennium and we have a really full agenda as well. So we're just going to kick right into this meeting now. Apologies today, we have Kate Wilson. Other than that, don't think we have any other apologies. So somebody here to move the apology of Councillor Wilson. Councillor McCall, seconded Councillor Malcolm, all in favour, aye, against, carried. And we do have some public forum today. We have Pierre waiting online, who will be our first speaker today. Second, we have Trevor Gooden, and then we have Tanea Kelly, I believe. If those people have changed as representatives, feel free to let me know when you come forward. So we'll confirm the agenda after we have public forum, and we may adjust the order as well, just signal that so that the Oamaru transport paper comes forward, but we will consider that after public forum. Okay, so first up, Pierre, welcome.
Kia ora katoa, can you hear me well?
We can.
I am sorry not to be able to attend in person for the last meeting of this term, but I am doing a presentation on electrification in Wanaka tonight. Now, the end of a political term is always a good time to look back and to assess what has happened during this cycle. We started these climate reports at the ORC in November 2022, just as emissions were rebounding after a small drop caused by the pandemic in 2020. In 2019, the IPCC had warned the world that we had 10 years to roughly halve our emissions for a 50% chance to stay under 1.5 degree of warming. 1.5 degree of warming being the limit above which the consequences of the climate crisis become catastrophic and threaten to trigger an uncontrollable chain of tipping points and feedback loops that have the potential to collapse our civilization and life as we know it on this planet. To achieve this goal of halving our emissions by 2030 would have required us to reduce our emissions by 7.6% per year. But as we are a pretty dumb species, instead, we kept increasing our emissions year after year. As a result, we have already spent more than a year above 1.5 degree of average excess temperatures, which caused across the world constant extreme weather events, wildfires, floods, storms, etc. Here in New Zealand, it caused Cyclone Gabrielle, the Auckland floods, the Nelson floods, and all the smaller but constant events slowly draining the resiliency of our communities. It has also become the leading cause of the cost of living crisis. We often hear in these chambers about the rates burden on our communities. Well, the climate collapse-induced financial burden on households and farmers is already far worse and will keep increasing in the coming years. So we missed a chance to avoid severe impacts from the climate crisis. We are already all impacted by them, and our future ability to stop a runaway warming of the planet has become uncertain. Nevertheless, what needs to happen is still the same. To stop burning fossil fuels is the condition for anything else we do to be worthwhile. In that sense, some small progress have been made during this term. It is important to acknowledge that. For example, the electrification of a public transport system is underway, even if too slowly, and if the central government pulling some funding isn't helping. But to electrify public transport is a very positive progress. It was also positive that the ORC published a climate action plan, but if it is a nice framework, it is still lacking tangible actions. And another myth is the fact that, as far as we know, the ORC hasn't started to take measures to reduce the emissions of its operations. This is especially disappointing, as we know that to electrify your operations would both reduce emissions and save some money. Now, to finish more positively, to have a new large-scale environmental fund alongside the already existing eco fund is great, and we are looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. But we need to be clear. We are losing the fight against the climate collapse. We are already all feeling the effects of breaching the laws of nature, and it will only keep getting worse until we stop burning stuff and we start regenerating our environment. On that note, if nobody can go back in the past, we can all start doing something about the climate and environmental crisis today. It is not as much what has happened in the past than what we do going forward that matters. So if you are not representing yourself in the coming elections, we thank you for your services, and we hope that you will keep fighting for the environment in your future roles. If you are representing yourself at the coming elections, we wish you the best, and we look forward to working with you in the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Any questions? No questions by the look of it. So I just need to thank you for a huge commitment that you have made turning up to public forum just about every single time during this training, which has been huge. And yeah, very, very noteworthy. We're not supposed to comment on anything qualitative here, but just want to say a massive thanks to you for representing the climate and for voicing your views and using the opportunity to come to public forum on behalf of communities. So I wish you as well, Pierre, and yeah, thanks very much for being with us on the last 3 years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so we are next on to the Oamaru to Palmerston Shuttle Steering Group, represented by Trevor Gooden, I understand. Trevor just wants to come forward. We have Tanea, I think. If Tanea wants to join Trevor and wait for her turn, if they're on the same topic, that's totally fine, whatever works for you.
Oh, no, I think she's a separate one.
Yeah, separately?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Trevor. Yeah, you just press the right hand button to speak. Yep, it's up.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Oamaru community. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Trevor Gooden, as you know. I run a shuttle service in Oamaru through my business, which is Alps to Ocean Cycles, and we run Christchurch, Queenstown, Timaru and Dunedin. So I'm fairly au fait with how shuttle services run and what's needed. I also run currently a donation-based health shuttle from Oamaru to Dunedin Hospital, Timaru Hospital and Christchurch Hospital to make sure people are getting to their appointments. So again, on the other end of the scale, and that I'm well aware of how it works, and that with working with people and that are unable to pay the costs for transport that are available at the moment. In the Waiheke district, we unfortunately seem to be left out of the public transport options, even though we've been paying for a non-existent service through our regional rates. I believe Oamaru is particularly in an unfair situation because we have around 50% of our population retired or at a retiring age. And along with the ageing community come health issues whereby people either have their licenses taken from them or they've decided to give the license up themselves. I've transported many of these people to eye clinics, cardiac clinics, and other health appointments where their only means of getting anywhere that we take for granted is then lost to them. We also have our community members who just don't drive or for socio-economic reasons are unable to afford to drive. These people are left to having to pay up to $280 just to get to Dunedin for a simple appointment or to visit someone or just to have a day out shopping. We're all well aware of the difficulty in running the all bus from Palmerston to continue on to Oamaru, and therefore to try and solve this problem, we've formed a steering group that can solve not only the transport problem for Oamaru, but what Otago Regional Council also has in their long-term plan for transport from Oamaru and return. We believe our proposal for a 6-month trial solves the issue by providing a shuttle service between Oamaru and Palmerston to meet the current all bus service. We're also aware that ORC has a responsibility to provide public service to the Otago region, and we as a steering group believe we have now bridged the gap that seems to have been too difficult to close in the past, whether it be for financial reasons or viability. We see this proposal as a workable framework for this council to approve and to help with its ongoing success. We know the issue of transport is a work in progress and can be easily scuttled by funding issues from outside sources. However, we also know that if we don't help ourselves by working with council, we will only end up by getting even more better about rates being paid for non-existent transport services and still unable to get to Dunedin and back. It is easy for us to dig our toes in and just keep banging away at trying to force council to just extend the all bus service from Palmerston to Oamaru without gaining any ground and find ourselves wasting our time. We only ask that council also sees this as an answer to all our transport problems and give it their blessing. It is as much in your interest as it is in ours to make this work. For the trial, we've sought out a suitable vehicle, drivers, admin, and now only asking for around 25k out of the 65k that ORC already has out of our rates to run the trial. We see this as we have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Currently, I run a health shuttle, and donations and sponsorship funds are deposited into the Oamaru Kilwinning number 82 Freemason Lodge Charity Trust. Sorry for the long name, but that's how they want to be known. Whereby I invoice them on a monthly basis, and payments for fuel and drivers are paid out by them. We are fortunate enough for them to offer the same service to our proposed shuttle service for the trial period. Our intention is to set up a community trust for the shuttle service when it becomes an ongoing service. Our community will be contributing upwards of some 680 hours unpaid by way of volunteers, which does have a value to keep in mind, of which totals $18,495 unpaid. So we're not asking for something we're not prepared to contribute to. We will be looking for access some of the various services ORC has at its disposal to set up a formal trust, legal entities, and what will be required to set up a permanent service once we have completed the trial and have a good understanding of what and how the service will work, how it will work in our community. We believe that after looking carefully at the ORC requirements and with much communication through Daniel Basubas, thank you, Daniel, we have met many, if not all, of the requirements necessary to get this off the ground. We only ask that you now help by giving your approval to access the 25k. I've been asked and had a lot of time to think about what I would see as a success with regards to the service between Oamaru and Palmerston return. I believe success looks like an ongoing service that may not even be anything like what we've proposed here today. Ideally, it would be a service whereby the all bus would just carry on to Oamaru. However, I think success looks like the trial worked as we have presented it. We will take the time throughout the trial to gauge viability and adjust the trial to meet current requirements. We try to make sure that we are able to keep an affordable service in place for our community by setting up the permanent service in a way that it can pay for itself with minimal input from council by way of a top-up fund. We're very aware that the services we are proposing will only succeed if we're able to continue in the worst case scenario, which is at the mercy of outside funding or agencies. There is no reason why a service cannot survive if it is used and run properly. Should we be unsuccessful, we respectfully ask for any appropriate meeting to discuss the reasons why. I thank you for your time and look forward to your positive response.
Thank you. Councillor Malcolm, then Councillor McCall. Oh, sorry. Councillor Malcolm.
Yeah, thanks for coming down, Trevor. Thanks very much. And listen, thanks very much indeed for the work that you're doing today. Just a couple of questions, 3 questions really. Are you comfortable that the trial period will be long enough? Are you comfortable that the 25K will do the job? And are you comfortable that you're going to have enough volunteers to be drivers?
Okay, to address the first question, it depends on how long you take to give me a positive response. I'm looking to be up and running by the end of October. And that will give us time through the summer months to get a fairly accurate idea on how it's going to run, what needs to change, and be ready to make that change.
Excellent. And the 25K will do that?
25K will do that, based on the costings that we've got. And I would be remiss if I hadn't to put a little bit of fat in there for any adjustments that need to be made.
Cool.
But 25K will do it.
And enough volunteer drivers to...
Volunteer drivers, I've got 4 drivers ready to go right now that are P endorsed, class 2 licenses, police vetted, so we can get it off the ground now if you see it yesterday.
Thanks, Trevor.
Right.
Thank you.
Councillor Noon, then Leah.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for the work you've done thus far. The question just around, you indicate that you need some staff support. So I just want to clarify whether the staff support is required during the trial or post the trial if it's successful and implemented permanently at that phase, or is it the first phase?
So we would be looking for support from regional council with the what's available through accountants, that kind of thing, and in setting up trust. We'd be looking for that kind of support during the trial, so that at the end of the trial, we're good to go.
Okay, no, thank you.
Right.
Councillor William.
Yeah, thanks for your presentation around your leadership in this space to date. I'm curious in your view and if you think the community's view is that this is a permanent solution, should funding be ongoing, or if this would ideally just be a first step towards something like an all-bus route all the way through Otago and Dunedin, once we have a different funding model.
So your question?
Do you see this as a permanent solution or a first step to something more like an all-bus service all the way through?
Based on what I know and how shuttle services run with especially when you're dealing with people that are at the low end of this financial scale, and like I said, we're dealing with 50% of the population on route at least. So I don't think the trial, when we're up and running ongoing, I don't think the trial will look anything like that. I think the basics will be there. The mechanics, what we're doing is putting the mechanics of it in place. With what we know works, the group has discussed it at length, and the people that are on the group are from various portions of the community with various experiences with age concern, those kinds of things, and I believe that we can make it go right from the start. But I know for a fact it will change to set it up ongoing. Ideally, I'm not going to let you wait it easily. The all bus would be brilliant. But realistically, we also know that that takes some funding from other agencies and things like that. And I think it would be stupid of us to just depend on other agencies to solve our problem.
Thanks.
Thank you. We're actually running out of time. Sorry for other questions. I think there's a few around, but we've got to keep cranking today. Yep. But thank you very much, Mr. Gooden, and welcome to stay and hear the paper that will bring forward.
Okay, thank you.
Tanea Kelly, maybe pronouncing your name wrong. I'm sorry. Welcome along. Oh, your mic is on at the moment. So
Oh, I wasn't
it's
turned
all
off, thank
working,
you.
yeah. And we're in your hands whenever you're ready.
Okay, tēnā koutou, to the Otago Regional Council. My name is Tanea, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. I wanted to take the opportunity to speak on a matter of urgent concern. The rising nitrate levels in the Waitaki District's waterways and groundwater, particularly in the lower Waitaki under your jurisdiction. As we all know, nitrate concentrations have been increasing steadily over the past decade, with medians and key bores reaching 4 to 7 milligrams per litre, levels that exceed ecological limits. They approach our drinking water thresholds, and this trend, driven by intensive farming and irrigation, threatens our precious aquifers and rivers. Yet action has been stalled. The current government's amendment to the Resource Management Act in October 2024 blocked the notification of your Land and Water Regional Plan until new national policy statement for our fresh water management is implemented or scrapped on December the 31st, 2025. Whichever comes first, while a legislative fix in August extended existing water permits, these delays have left us relying on outdated rules, allowing the nitrate pollution to persist without stronger enforcement. We cannot afford to wait until the end of this year or potentially longer for the Land and Water Regional Plan to become operative. The human cost is profound. High nitrate levels in drinking water pose a serious threat and health risks, especially to our most vulnerable. Pregnant women face heightened odds of preterm birth. You would have heard of blue baby syndrome. Chronic exposure has an increased to colorectal cancers, cardiac arrest issues. We also have our hospital, which services the Waitaki district all the way to Wanaka. It's currently being built with fewer beds than our current hospital. In the Waitaki district, where families rely on these water sources, this is not just an environment issue, it's a public health crisis. And I was just reading in your catchment plan, the nitrate levels for runoff on farmlands is a medium priority issue, whereas wilding pines is a worse priority. I urge the council to advocate fiercely for expedient national guidance and implement interim measures, like enhanced monitoring and farm nutrient plans to protect community. We need to prioritise our water and the well-being of our people. I would also like to speak today on a matter close to the hearts of our community, as you would have also heard from Trevor Gooden. And this is regards to the Orbis bus extending from Palmerston to the Waitaki in Owamaro. First, we need to consider our ageing population. It is a home to a growing number of seniors who rely on specialised medical care in Dunedin. The Dunedin offers essential services from oncology to cardiology. They simply aren't available locally, and we do not know if we are going to have our local hospital in the future. For many elderly residents, the drive is daunting. The stress, and if they're physically able to attend, or they have families, some people have no support. And as Trevor provides, he provides a donation service, but this service is a small part of the much needed population. Having the Orbis bus service reach from Palmerston Oamaru would also immensely help our economy. It would provide staff, it would help our businesses, it would work both ways. People could attend Dunedin, but they could also come to Oamaru. I understand that our local council did a lot of work to gain a trial for the Orbis, but funding was cut, and this has delayed the public trial. My understanding is that it's immensely delayed progress and they cannot apply for funding for another 3 years. This is why we have the steering group and the committee. We would just really appreciate your support to get something off the ground to prove that it is viable and a much needed service in Otago.
Just up to 5 minutes. There.
Okay, yes, well, thank you.
But yeah, it seems like you've done a great job rounding that off. So thank you very much. Are there any questions? Councillor Somerville.
Yeah, thank you for speaking to us about these important issues. Regarding the nitrate levels and your identification of the problem that we were unable to notify the Land and Water Regional Plan last year, I wonder if you have taken that issue to your local MP and what that response might have been.
Yes, I have.
And the response from him?
The response from our local MP, they have our local water done well. Coming out, our council recently voted on it. They've decided to go on their own, which unfortunately that's going to be a detriment to us because we're not going to be able to use the economies of scale. We're not going to be able to attract staff as other councils are going to be able to. So it is a huge problem, the nitrate levels, especially when we're not going to have the resources to rectify the issue.
Any other questions? Councillor Weir.
Yeah, just super quickly, you identified in a catchment action plan that nitrate levels was fairly low on the priority list.
Yeah, it's just it's noted as a medium where wilding conifers is in your agenda, the upper catchment.
That was my question, yeah, just which action plan that was.
Yeah, so wilding pines, highest priority. Nitrate levels affecting people's health when we don't have a health system to support us. Medium priority.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks, yeah, just clarifying where that came from. Yeah, that's good. So it's on our agenda today in the catchment action planning for the Upper Lakes area, I think is what we clarified there. Thank you. Right, so I think we may have come to the end of questions there. So again, I just want to thank you heaps for coming along, presenting on behalf of yourself today, but yeah, touching on a couple of really big issues in the area. So really appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we just need to confirm our agenda next. Kylie, do you want to? Oh no, we don't need to put that up, do we? We'll be okay, I think. So we have got a few matters that need adjusted. The first one is that we need to move to add the recommendations of the Environmental Delivery Committee on the 4th of September to matter 9.2. So we've got audit and risk to consider, but we just need to add that one there. Environmental Delivery Committee. Second of all, we need to move to approve the addition of a late paper, which is opportunity for trial of national ticketing solution in Queenstown, including the recommendation to consider it in public excluded, being scheduled for the end of today after paper 10.8. So there's two really matters there. One is, and they're separate, that you approve that it would be in public excluded, and then the other one is accepting the late paper. So the reason this paper is late is the information to support this paper was not available in time for the paper to be included on the agenda last week. And the reason for the item needing to be discussed and can't be delayed until a subsequent meeting is that a decision is required in September to ensure we have time to implement the trial ahead of the proposed February commencement. So yeah, I've already mentioned that it's a little bit complicated, but just want to clarify that the decision on whether it's considered in public excluded will be considered when we get to the paper. So you'll get an opportunity as usual to vote on that, and then we'll just move to approve the addition of the late paper now. And then there's a third one, which is moving to adjust the order of papers to consider 10.5 community transport trial in Oamaru first. So bringing it ahead of the chair and CE's report. And ahead of the 9.1 and 9.2, which is the recommendations. Sorry about this, there's quite a bit there, but so we've got three things that we want to do. One's moving that environmental delivery, the other one's the late paper, and the third one is adjusting the order. Happy to move all of those. Do I have a seconder for them? Got Councillor McCall first. Nobody needs to mention anything, any issues that we haven't foreseen, I don't think. So it's procedural, so I will put that now. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Which brings us to our first item. Oh, sorry, yeah, we got declarations of it. I just need to cover off our usual other things before we get into the items. Declarations of interest, just a reminder to stand aside if you have a conflict of interest arising. Confirmation of minutes of the 27th of August. Somebody care to move those as a true and accurate record? Councillor Noon, seconded Councillor Somerville. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. We have actions register there as well. Are there any updates that need recorded into that table? Otherwise, it's there for noting, and yeah, we've come to the end of the training, but some of these actions are ones that carry over. No matters being noted. Nothing you need to raise there.
So there are so in terms of actions, you'll see there are any actions that are going to carry over. There are a number there that will be dealt with, particularly around rates reviews and things, and potential future ownership models for assets to be considered as part of the upcoming long-term plan. So those actions will carry over, and we'll record those in the new training, so the council are aware which actions are still being worked on by staff and are still to be considered. There are another couple that are being closed off today, and anything that is still outstanding will wrap up, or we will report through the new council just with an update of where it got to.
All right, so the actions table carries over essentially, or a report comes to the new council. Okay. So yeah, that's there for noting anyway, and you've all had a chance to read that. Can't see any questions, which means that we can come on to the reordered first item, which is the public transport Oamaru paper. Community transport, sorry. Welcome along, everyone. Anita, do you want to start?
Thank you, Chair, and I won't say much because I've not done the work for this. It's the teams sitting at the table that have done the heavy lifting and all the liaison with Trevor and his group. So I'm just going to pass over to Daniel, and we are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay.
Kia ora, thank you, Chair. Thanks, Mr. Gooden, for coming along to speak at the public forum. We'll take the paper as read, but want to highlight that today's decision is relatively narrow. It's about whether or not to support a 6-month community transport trial in Oamaru. If this trial proceeds, staff will begin to work with the Oamaru steering committee on implementation. We acknowledge that at this stage, there's many details to work through, and we will provide council with updates and seek advice as we progress through this work. I would like to note that approving this trial is not a long-term commitment for community transport, but rather that the trial provides us with an opportunity to better understand Oamaru's transport needs and our capacity to potentially support a more comprehensive community transport program throughout the region. Council will have the opportunity to make decisions about how to progress with the community transport trial or how to progress with community transport at a later date in response to the results of the trial. In any case, it should be noted that running the trial will require additional staff resources for the duration of the trial, and also that continuing down the pathway of community transport will require further staff resourcing. I would also like to note that staff are proposing a slight amendment to recommendation 3. Just a little bit of wording change here that says approves the provision of $25,000 to the Freemasons Lodge Oamaru Kilwinning 82 or another legal entity who will oversee the financial aspect of the community transport trial. So this reason for this amendment is to provide us with greater flexibility to progress this trial through any legal entity, although the Freemasons Lodge is still the preferred legal entity through which to do so. And we welcome any questions or feedback. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Malcolm, followed by Councillor Weir.
Right. Just going to 2 parts, going to the implications on total mobility, you, which is on paragraph 33, page 104, which you seem to indicate that that could possibly have a positive impact on the total mobility services that we have, but it is probably outside the bounds of the recommendation of the council resolution in November 24. However, do you believe that recommendation 2 actually covers that off? And recommendation 2 states that approves flexible model community transport trial in Oamaru, including the ability to provide around town services as required.
So through the chair, so yeah, the reason we think it may have a positive impact is it might give people in Oamaru who currently rely on total mobility an alternative transport option. And as you know, total mobility is under significant financial pressure. So this isn't intended to at all address the bigger total mobility conversation,
Yep.
But just having that flexibility to design the system that the community wants may have an additional benefit in terms of TM costs and expenditure and flexibility for those users.
Yeah, and so, and you're comfortable that recommendation 2 that you put would cover that ability?
Yes, so in all, yeah, it just boils down to they would just be a person using the community transport as opposed to using total mobility.
Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Weir.
Thanks. Yes, first just carrying on from what Councillor Malcolm was asking about there, and given one of the issues with the intercity bus being a service available there is the lack of accessibility of that service. So is the vehicle that has been acquired for this accessible for wheelchair users or other passengers with mobility issues?
So through the chair, we're not sure if it's fully accessible for all of the total mobility customers, but it will be accessible for some of those, you know, at least some of them, and we'll obviously there's details of this that we haven't fully worked through, so that will be one of them.
Okay, cool. And then the other question was just around because the recommendation 4 mentions if the trial is successful. I was just wondering what we would consider success in this. Is there a specific patronage sort of level we're looking at, or what success?
So again, we don't have all the details worked out at the moment. Things that we'll be monitoring to look for success include amount of volunteer participation, the financial sustainability of the trial. For example, how much revenue are they getting from fares, and if our contribution was to go down, would they be able to secure outside funding as well? Their administrative capabilities, patronage, passenger community feedback. We're not trying to put a hard number on it and say this, we expect patronage to be this, because there's no real sort of basis for where that number would come from. I think community feedback will be really important.
Yep. Councillor Malcolm, were you trying to answer that thing before?
No.
Okay, that's good. We'll go to
Just-
Councillor Somerville, Malcolm, then Noon.
Thanks. Look, I'm just trying to reconcile paragraphs 22 and 23, where 22 notes that the steering group's proposal was to provide a connection with the Palmerston Dunedin bus service. In 23, staff recommend the community transport trial adopt a more flexible model. Now, you might have touched on that before, but just to clarify, if we agree to those recommendations, where are we going when we have these two suggestions here, which are not quite the same?
Yeah, so through the chair, you're correct. So what the committee's asked for is not quite what we've recommended. And so we've said they should, we've recommended flexibility because we think that while their proposal is good, if it doesn't work out, we want them to have to pivot and do something else so that they can actually react to the demand. So the reason we've suggested a flexible trial is so that they can actually modify as they go, and we're not locked into one model that may or may not work. So it's really just to allow that, around town to Dunedin to Palmerston.
And the resources that the steering group has said they have available in terms of drivers and bus drivers, and the $25,000 that they are asking for, and is in that recommendation, should we think cover some changes in a more flexible model too?
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Councillor Malcolm.
Oh, no, I was just indicating I'm happy to move.
Oh,
the
right,
direction,
sure.
Councillor Mooney had a
Noon.
question, I think.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Paragraph 29 refers to potentially using a summer student to undertake some trial monitoring and evaluation, etc. Is that part of the additional staff resource that you referred to, Daniel? And the second part of the question is when Mr. Gooden spoke, he spoke about some potential staff support in and around perhaps legal advice and maybe administration or accountancy or whatever. Has there been any conversations with the wider group in terms of other staff and other departments where potentially they could absorb, or this work could be absorbed in their current workloads?
So the summer studentship, the potential summer studentship would help us conduct some of this monitoring and evaluation. So, we have to basically write reports to figure out if this is doing well. And so that's going to take up staff resources anyways. So we're thinking that there's parts of that could be turned into a summer project that would sort of help us with our writing of this report. So it would be in addition to that.
And in terms of additional support, so I would anticipate we'd use external legal advice for this because it's new. We're not entirely clear in terms of the requirements. And so we just, in terms of demand, would use Ross Dowling to support us to do this. And then part of what we need to do is scope up exactly how much resource it will take and think about how we support the existing work programs. So Laura, obviously in the total mobility space, is aligned with community transport. Total mobility is pretty busy. So it's just making sure that we can juggle what we do.
Very good, thank you.
Councillor McCall.
Yes, thank you. I actually had the same question as Andrew's, but so what do you think, because you've talked already, there might be some more legal costs. We've got a summer student and there might be other costs as well. Is there any, have you got like a budget for those other costs maybe?
No, we don't, but we do have money in this this collection of rates that we use, and I don't anticipate we'd go outside of that.
Because I've got 2 or 3 more. And then in 34 says your current tender for units 1 and 2 includes a price provisional item for daily recurring trips on Route Dunedin. Now, is that like when you're asking for a tender, it's not just an indication, is that like a legal, are you asking for like an actual price, a doable price, or is it just?
Yeah, so we will have a price out of that tender for a full service. It doesn't mean we're committed to implementing it. It would require a decision of the council through annual plan. But we will have a price and we'll have some knowledge of what it would take to support those decisions.
So does that mean that you'll be able to, like we've seen around doing it, excuse me, annual plan next year, you'll be able to say putting a bus to Oamaru will cost X amount?
That's the hope, yes.
I think so. The other thing, I'd like to really commend Trevor and his team for taking the initiative, and it's quite interesting to me coming from an area that pays transport rates, but doesn't know what buses look like.
Sorry, questions, because
No, it's just my lead
in
into my
second, you
question.
go after. Okay.
Is the indication, is the part of the trial to inform the possibility or to work with other areas that may advantage from the same?
Yeah, so the intention is to trial it in an area where you've already rated for it, we've got the money, and then part of coming back to you will be, how we think it's measured in terms of success, and then is it something that you want community transport as an activity that we don't do, and if so, we'd then develop a full policy and figure out where else it might work across Otago. So this is very much the I think the trailblazers, as Mr. Gooden described himself earlier, so it would very much be a test case to see if we could roll it out and if it's something we wanted to support.
No, that's awesome, thank you. And one last question.
Question, yep.
We're really entertaining the idea of funding a trial going from Oamaru to Timaru.
Through the chair, that's an interesting question, one I raised with the team as I reviewed the paper, because it looked a little bit odd to go from Otago into Canterbury, but we had a look at some other community trials and they do move across district and regional boundaries. So it is about the purpose of community transport is to enable people to get to where they need to go. So if they had a medical appointment in Timaru and there was demand, then we would absolutely encourage that ability to do that.
Thank you, I'm in favour of that.
Councillor Callagher, do you have a question?
Oh, yes, one quick one, thanks. So the highlighting of the staffing resources to undertake what should be it's a relatively small sum of money out of a large public transport budget or expend that we do on an annual basis. Is it our staffing resources for public transport so stretched that we have to highlight we would need more for this level of trial? Because if more of these were to appear, would we then need more staff to undertake?
So in short, yes, our staff are all fully occupied and they're down some staff. So we are, we do need to be really conscious about what we're doing. The challenge with this is it's completely new, so we don't have any frameworks, processes set in place. We don't have any of the structure that supports it. So while if we got it up and running, it might not be resource intensive to get it to that point. It will be. There's legal obligations in terms of our legislative requirements and what community transport can and can't do. So it's a matter of being new and not having done it before. In terms of if community transport was something that obviously wanted to invest in more permanently or more enduring, Waikato has a number of community transport providers and has a team. ECAN has one or two people, so there would be a reprioritisation of resources that a conversation that you would need to have as council in terms of how you supported it.
Thank you.
Lloyd, have you got another question?
Yeah, I've got lots of yellow on this one. I was just a bit of a follow-up because I was being annoying. So, because you said before, like your total cost, the 25 plus additional would probably be within the amount collected, and I see the amount collected was from a targeted rate. Is that correct? So it's been paid for by the area.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I think this is the moment. We have a mover. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Noon. Councillor Malcolm, would you like to speak first?
I'll save that to the end,
Yeah,
but
sure.
I'll just remind all councillors that this payment will come from a specifically
Just your mic.
This payment will be coming from a specifically targeted rate to the Oamaru rating area. So it's not a separate pot of money that we're delving into. It's already been specifically targeted. Plus, the same districts also pays their share of the 20% of general transport rate that this bus will be grateful for.
Just clarification, Kevin, you were happy to move that amended recommendation rather than it's the paper
Yes,
that
correct.
opens up the funding.
Yes,
to more
absolutely.
alternative.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, councillor No.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, this particular option we have on the table, connecting, we're having a 6-month trial for a connection with Oamaru South, is something that was raised through the regional regional public transport plan during that consultation process. And in fact, community transport was a significant issue through that process. We had submitters from Oamaru, we had submitters right across Otago talking about community transport. And those submissions were essentially converted into some statements around assumptions and aspirations in our plan. And it basically means that over time, we have aspirations to create greater connectivity with public transport in whatever form, whether it's all bus or whether it's community transport. That is something we want to achieve. And we talk about also connecting with Vaucluse. We also talk about connecting Alexandra, Clyde, Cromwell into Queenstown. So this fits into our strategic thinking. It's probably come around a little bit quicker than we had anticipated, but that's great. It's great for Oamaru to get it up and running sooner rather than later. So obviously I'm speaking in support of this partnership with the community. And I think we would be foolish not to look a gift horse in the mouth when you consider the amount of groundwork that's been done by the steering group, by Mr. Gooden and others within the Oamaru community. So I look forward to working with the Oamaru community and the staff doing their bit, the Oamaru community doing their bit and making the most of this trial.
Councillor Weir, then McCall, then Forbes.
Yeah, I think the Oamaru community is absolutely right to expect some level of service for the money that they've already been paying in rates for transport, as Councillor Malcolm mentions. And I think it's very admirable that I've taken the initiative to set up this proposal with the help of our transport staff. So I just want to thank Kevin for his presence and leadership in these discussions to date, and to all the people in the community, like Mr. Gooden, who have taken this initiative. And I do want to reflect as well on how the transport team has been able to manoeuvre in a difficult funding environment to help come up with solutions like this that can really get us moving. And I'm keen for us to do everything that we can to set this trial up for success, which I think does start today with the recommendations that are in front of us. So very much speaking in support. But I do see this as just a first step, both to OSC supporting other community shuttle services in the region, and to a more robust integrated service between Oamaru and Dunedin as sort of part of our wider Orbus network, but that apart may require a new government policy statement. So excited for us to get moving with what's in front of us for now. Kia ora.
Thank you, Councillor McCall, Forbes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to thank you for bringing this paper. It's really good to get things that are new and something as we've got a bit of initiative around it. So it's something that might be going in the background, but for me, this year, thinking out of the square and looking to empower your communities and work with the communities to put in place services that suit the communities. And it's always going to be a progression. There's always going to be changes, but you've got to actually start somewhere and have a go. So I'd like to commend you on that and look forward to seeing how it may get extrapolated out to so that we can get all of the targets being connected together. Thank you.
Councillor Forbes.
nothing really new to say except to endorse everybody else's things. But I just would mention that this goes back to our strategic directions that we put together some time ago and around bringing, empowering communities to solve issues for themselves. And Oamaru's stepped up extremely well to do that. And I thank them for that as well. But I'll most certainly be supporting this and ringing the bells as well.
Okay, Councillor Methon.
Yeah, I'll support this as well, but I do have to question why a small amount like 25,000 and for something that's fitting within our strategy is actually coming to council in the first place. It should have been an operational decision which should have been made, but I will be supporting it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, we got Councillor Malcolm, but I just wanted to note as well, really briefly, that it's really pleasing to see the council taking that attitude of the supporting of community-led initiatives where we get far better bang for buck and far better outcomes because their services that community wants are driving themselves literally in this case, which is absolutely amazing. Fantastic to have volunteers stepping up and wanting to support their own communities. That's amazing. And it is local government at our best when we take that can-do attitude. And yeah, interesting point there, Tim, but it's really pleasing to have this brought forward so that we can learn from it as well. It's a new area for us and around the table and just thinking about what are, wider implications. So yeah. Councillor Malcolm, you've been waiting patiently.
Look, thanks to the transport staff, Dan, Jack, for your presentation at the Lodge a few weeks back. I thought it was quite sensational, and I had plenty of good comments about it. And what also has happened, we've had a great willingness from the staff to work with our community team from Oamaru to make this happen. To Trevor Gooden, you probably put far too much time into this and far too much effort, but at the end of the day, we're getting close to a result. You've now grabbed a steering group to help you. Thanks to the Freemason Lodge, Oamaru Kiwini 82, and whatever trust they set up, and them for stepping in behind it. Just another empowering a community to use the power of their volunteers. So it's actually sensational. And if you start doing that, I think at the end of the day, we'll get a result that will be long and lasting. We need to bring this in front of council. It's a new initiative that is untested in this area. I think it is Waikato that's actually doing some legal work on it now to ensure that it's fitted and it's corrected because it is in the public transport space. It's for a short duration, which means that we've got to be really flexible with it, keep our eyes and ears wide open and listen to what's happening and be very nimble on what we're doing with it. We need to keep the pressure on. Forgetting about it being long overdue and we've waited and waited and waited. Well, it's actually here now, so it's up to the Waitaki community to jump in behind it, and if they really want the service, to make it work, because clearly they've got a great team in behind them up there that want to make it work. So my word would go out to the Waitaki community. There's a group that's putting this in front of you. Council's now backing it, and rightly so. So that community needs to jump in and make sure it works and works enduringly. Thanks very much. Please vote in favour or forever run away from me.
Well done. Right of reply is done there as well, I'm assuming, in your final speech. Well done. Okay, so we will put that, noting that there was that minor change around or another legal entity, and that everyone's clear on what they're voting on. So we can put all those together, all in favour. Aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Right. We are back to 8.1 now, which is the chair's report. So yeah, it's a funny feeling to deliver a chair's report looking at the 3 years of us working together around the table, and just thinking about what we have had the privilege to do on behalf of our communities, to look back and think about how ORC delivers value, because we do deliver value and we deliver essential services. And it's important for communities to hear from us that we're really doing our absolute best to be achieving on their behalf. So I've set out some of the highlights. Obviously, along any journey, there is dynamism and there is a lot of challenge, and we're dealing with a natural environment which can throw up challenges in its own right, especially when you're dealing with big natural systems like rivers and the coast and hazards. And yeah, some of the really important work that we do on behalf of communities. So first of all, it is a really big privilege to have been sitting here in this seat over the last 3 years, and want to thank all of you for working with me and with our staff and giving your absolute all during that time. I think that this council has made some significant shifts over the last 3 years, and you've all been part of that journey right from the very beginning when you thought about what is our vision, how are we doing the work, and how can we improve, because I think it's healthy for any organisation to be always thinking about how can they improve. Are they delivering what's best for community and listening to what community thinks is best for them. So I think that we've had some real key shifts in attitude towards collaboration, transparency and outcomes, and we're on a continual improvement journey there. We're not at the end of that, and we're not saying that we're perfect at this point, that's for sure. But let's think about some of the things that we have tackled together, and some of those highlights over the last 3 years. So in environmental management and land and water, obviously over this training we have been working throughout most of it on a land and water plan, which involved working really closely with communities and with mana whenua and with stakeholders, and a whole lot of work as well that was done around not only science but economic reports, a whole range of info that sits in there. And it's paused, and we know that, and we've worked together through some of the most challenging issues together as a council, and we're still here today and we're still doing our jobs, and we've put everything into ensuring that we work together as a team on behalf of our communities. So thanks for everyone's input there. So what else have we got there? I guess we've been supporting community-led action, and that's not just as a result of having the land and water plan paused. It's been a deliberate shift in the way that this council operates. We have been supporting community-led action for quite a while, but in doing so, we're seeing some really, really good outcomes. So we just talked before about the community transport initiatives and how backing community-led action does get really good bang for buck. So it means that we get a lot of volunteer hours, and we support initiatives that community really wants to drive. We get far better outcomes through doing that. So there's lots of examples where we've shifted towards doing that over this triennium and invested strongly in it as well. I've outlined some of those there. I've noted particularly Lake Hayes or Waifakata. We've been working with that community for so many years, and what a lot of effort has been going in there. We've been doing some work together, and actually we are seeing results of that lake turning around for the positive, which is awesome, and hopefully that will continue. But yeah, it's been a heap of work right throughout the whole catchment that community's been leading, but we've invested in as well with things like increasing the flows into that lake. And supporting as well through many different means. The catchment action plan that's on today as well is part of that as well in that area. So other lakes and catlands catchment action planning, that's really important this triennium as well. We've also had, and we often hear about pest management and challenges around that, and we certainly do have a lot of challenges around pest management. I just want to note as well that we've got some really good things that have been going on as well. We've been working closely with communities like Moiraki and around Wanaka. Those, I can't remember the word off the top of my head at the moment, but for those smaller community action projects around rabbits that have been going on. Wilding conifers as well. Obviously funding, there's still a little bit of funding coming in, but nowhere near as much as there was. But again, absolutely amazing work going on by communities, and we are also supporting as well wherever we can. So yeah, there's lots happening there, and stuff that we do as well, interacting with fellow councils is going to set us up really well. And Councillor Malcolm, some of the work that you've been involved in as well around wallabies and wilding conifers, really important, and Councillor Forbes as well on the wilding conifers. And yeah, we're looking at South Island, are really keen to get involved in some sort of collaboration around pest management, hopefully recommended to the new councils going forward. Resilience and hazards work, huge in terms of some of the stuff that we're working together with communities and territorial authorities and other stakeholders, mana whenua as well. So South Dunedin Future's on the agenda today, Glenorchy has been recently, and Clutha Delta are underway as well. So addressing those really big issues for communities and with communities as well. So that it's a genuine relationship where local government can do work on behalf of communities, that communities are giving that input about how they want it to work for them. So that's big. Highlight, yeah, so I guess, yeah, that's probably that around hazards, transport and regional development work. So public transport with record usage in Dunedin and Queenstown, that's taken a lot of work and input from staff, from councillors, from operators. It's really, really good stuff that's occurred this triennium, from extreme challenges as well this triennium. Regional deal, a new space as well, where councils, mana whenua and the Crown come together and build shared understanding around some of the key issues and the opportunities in inland Otago. So that's a new way of working together that's really important as well. We've been delivering essential services such as during the October 2024 floods, the Minister for Civil Defence came along to Otago, and so did the Prime Minister, and at that time the response there was labelled of gold standard. So that's massive really for us. There's been some challenges nationally around civil defence and emergency management delivery, but over the last 3 years we've had really positive responses in this region. We've got strategic investments that we delivered as well, Port Otago, and we're really proud of the achievements there. We'll be hearing more about that. And our river schemes as well, flood and drainage schemes. They're really important that we manage on behalf of community. Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust as well, we've been supporting. So there's heaps that has gone on, and yeah, I guess it just comes back to achieving some really big outcomes for community, but also that shift in attitude about are we delivering value, are we delivering it efficiently, and are we thinking about supporting community-led initiatives wherever we can. And I really like that around this table we've often have unanimous support for those types of values, and we've worked together really well. So I just want to at this point acknowledge as well some of the work that has gone on. I've written in the report, but it's important to say it as well to all of you. I just want to thank you for your total dedication over the last 3 years. It has been a much heavier workload in this council than ever before. And you've shouldered that, and your families shoulder that. And you've done it absolutely willingly and always put your hand up to do more. So thank you very much for that. You've got absolute commitment to the people and places of Otago as well as of your own local areas. You've stepped into co-chair and other leadership roles with total energy, as I've said, and professionalism. And you've demonstrated prudent financial management as well. We're in a strong position in this council, which you can be proud of. You've brought a strong and diverse skill mix, which I really value as well. It's important that we have differing views. We represent different communities. We're a diverse region, and that adds to the strength of the council. So thank you for putting your hand up to be councillors as well. It's a sometimes challenging role, but I think you'll all agree it's an incredibly rewarding and privileged position to be in on behalf of communities. And yeah, thanks for your respect of differing views as well. A special thanks to Lloyd McCall, Deputy Chair, ongoing support, thank you, and willingness to step in whenever you've been called upon. So thank you, particularly from me to everything that you've done. I do want to wish all the councillors well in whatever may happen in the future for you. And yeah, I know Councillor Alexa Forbes, you will be moving on from this position, and there'll be an opportunity to reflect on that on a special paper towards the end of the council meeting. Mana whenua though as well, I just want to thank Edward Ellison for his long-serving commitment and vision for the people and places of Otago. And Huani Langsbury and Karen Coates for their work and their insights as well on committee representatives on the council alongside Edward, who was a co-chair, and Runaka as well for ongoing input and particularly through mana to mana work. I've noted relationships that we have with central government and MPs, which have been really important, and when we've needed each other most, we have been able to have those discussions and move forward. And I just want to thank government and all the ways that we do partner, which are significant, and even in the funding space as well. So that one, Port Otago, independent directors chaired by Tim Gibson and staff led by Kevin Winders, outstanding stewardship and ensuring the port continues to deliver fantastic returns, which have significant impact on all of Otago through general rates, as well as not to be taken for granted is the fact that having a well-functioning, sustainably managed port as infrastructure within Otago and a gateway to the world is significant for Otago. So we never take that for granted. Thank you very much to Port Otago. Want to recognise mayors and the relationships that we have had over the last 3 years. Hopefully a platform to move forward stronger relationships than ever would be how I would see it, because we've had to work together way more often in a whole lot of different settings like future development strategies, regional deals. What else? There's probably a whole lot more I'm missing. Even the catchment action planning and things like that. Public transport and the joint working group we have in Queenstown and Dunedin. So many ways that we have been working together. I want to recognise Gary Kircher and Brian Cadogan, who are both stepping down from their roles. Also want to recognise Andrew Douglas, who's the independent co-chair of Audit and Risk Committee. Again, we will be noting at the end of the agenda his role, but yeah, just here wanted to thank him for all he has done. Bus operators, we definitely need to thank them during the last 3 years. To get back up to record patronage from where we were struggling to attract enough bus drivers and be on time and all those things during the COVID, totally understandable COVID shutdowns. And to build back up, it's taken a lot of work from bus operators as well, and we don't take that for granted. So thank you for those relationships and hard work. Many other organisations across Otago too. I know through chairing the Joint Committee on Civil Defence, I see just how many linkages there are to so many, every organisation pretty much in Otago we're involved in, involved with as local government. And the resilience that's needed when you have a emergency, those networks need to be there so that we can call on them when we need. To the staff, thank you so much. You're absolutely outstanding. Thanks especially to Richard and to Amanda for leading the team, and to the executive leadership team, working right across every corner of this massive region. And like us, it's been a heavier workload than ever before. We greatly value the skills that you've got, and for leaping on board with the attitudes as well of the transparency, of the community led, of the are we delivering our services absolutely top notch. We want to be the best council or the best region in all of New Zealand, and we need to lead in that space. So thank you for doing that and demonstrating excellence. Thank you to the governance team as well for supporting us, particularly as councillors. A big meeting to end on as well. So thanks for that. And also, just from me again to EA Kim Wainscott as well, who supports myself and Richard. Thanks for everything you've done over the last triennium. I think I have talked enough on thanking everyone at the moment, and just want to again wish you all really well. We don't know who'll be around the table. It will be exciting after elections, and that's the nature of local government and democracy. So whatever happens, it's going to be good because our communities will have chosen it. So yeah, it's exciting. But good to reflect as well on what we have done and that we have added value. Thanks. I do have more in my report there on meetings that have been attended and also a couple of letters there. So there's the follow-up on what the private share impact may be and where we're at the moment with public transport stats. And then also a letter of support for Lake Hawea towards a predator-free Lake Hawea catchment project. Any questions? Sorry, it was long.
The paper is red.
Thank you. Paper is red.
Happy to move.
Thanks, Councillor Kelleher. Somebody want a second? Councillor Forbes. Okay, there will be an opportunity for reflections for everyone else towards the end of the council meeting, but if there's anything you particularly needed to say now, you're welcome. Councillor Somerville.
Thank you. Look, I noted you have thanked many people in that list, and I think from us councillors, we ought to say thank you very much to our very excellent chair, Gretchen Robertson. So thank you, Councillor Robertson, for your work over the last
Thank
3
you.
years.
Before anyone else says anything, I'll put it then. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. CD report.
Right, that's much more planned and operational than that.
Do it.
So look, thanks, Gretchen. So obviously, the C report following a similar format to those that we've had or since I've been in the seat. So it has the normal updates in there. I did just have a specific update on the customer services area. You'll remember last year was when we started adding that customer experience data in due to the increase in rates inquiries. And the team have just provided me an update which wasn't available at the time the agenda was printed. So rates have gone out in three drops as we do each year just to spread the load. And we are seeing increases in calls or emails to our customer experience team, not as high as last year, and that is a result of, obviously we know last year there was an error in the rates that led to a number of calls and inquiries. We haven't this year. The numbers are tracking much more close to what they were in 2023, which is good news. In terms of the inquiry types, setting up, changing or restarting direct debits is high on the list, conveyancing corrections, updating contact details, remittance and just general explanations where people have got questions about what's in their rates and what they're paying for. So the sort of inquiries we would expect to get, the numbers have gone back to what they were in 2023, and the team are comfortable that they've got all the resources required to continue to deliver that high level of service and make sure that we're not missing those inquiries when they arrive. So that's just a bit of an update on customer experience that wasn't in the report. In terms of the balance of the report, the non-financial measures are in there, and just noting that we're already reflecting where we think we'll be at the end of the year, particularly where it comes to the work in our planning area, which we know is now on hold, but we still have to report it as not meeting that criteria, even though it's out of our hands in terms of the decision that we have to progress or not. Otherwise, we'll keep a close eye on the rest of those, and they'll continue to be reported in the new triennium. Financial performance, very early in the year, you'll see there we are showing a surplus, but again, 2 months, so very difficult to sort of translate that through to year end. The first finance reports to the new council will be the Q1 results, which will include a year end forecast. And we have flagged previously that because of the change in the rules around plan notification, we do know that we will be carrying some surpluses in some areas from work we're no longer able to do. And we'll report that in more detail when we report the Q1 results. But we're showing a surplus at this time, but again, very early in the year, so not too much to be read into that. And then a final update for this council on the efficiency area, which was obviously a key piece of work that you undertook early in the term. There's been a little bit more progress in some of those areas, particularly in the project management space, and trying to put more of a framework around our project and program management for particularly our large enterprise IT projects, to make sure that they are well managed, but focus on those different efficiency review actions continues. And then I would just take the chance, because I won't speak as part of the paper tomorrow, just on behalf of the staff, to thank all of the councillors for your work this term. I would echo Gretchen, it has been a massive 3 years in terms of workload, going back to the land and water plan and the long-term plan, both effectively occurring in parallel, which were two huge pieces of work requiring a massive amount of effort from you all around this table. And that's continued just with what I would consider to be a significant workload, but all important work the staff have been bringing to the table for direction and decision. So thank you from me on behalf of staff for all the time and the support of staff, and just a special thanks to you, Alexa, for your support of staff and the passion you bring to those things in the Queenstown area and the broader Otago area. And happy to take any questions on the report, Gretchen.
Questions? Councillor Malcolm.
It was on page 44, relating to 3 and 4. This is integrated planning and reporting. So one of the key things that came through from the efficiency review was ensuring that everything was aligned, silos were removed, and resourcing was all spot on. And to me, this is a couple of areas that are pretty key to that, and we've rated them rightfully so as a weighty project, high impact and high effort. So where are we actually with that? And how much are you doing at the moment to drive that? So we have got, and I know there's always commentary there, but I just wonder where that's really sitting at the moment.
Yeah, look, it is a critical one in terms of that integrated planning. You're right, Kevin, and we have the organisational planning and performance team that has been set up under Amanda's directorate will be driving that sort of integrated planning alongside our strategy team. And so they have commenced that work, and you'll note in there that the full scoping expected Q2 in this financial year. So effectively that's underway now, and we would hope that will build or feed into the discussions that the council is able to have around the annual plan as well. So agree with you around its importance, and we've certainly been talking about it a lot. We know that there was a focus to ensure that we were better aligned across our work programs, and while it's showing as 0%, it's only really because nothing formally has come back through this table, but there's certainly been some thinking and some work done on it.
Right. So, and if I, with your indulgence, Chair, if I then go to the next page to 4, the data management, which again is weighted project, high impact, high effort. And again, I suppose just reading further papers, I refer to the integrated catchment management program that we're looking at, the reliance on data as being aligned across directorates and the like. So whereabouts are we at with that? Because that seems to be again another real key part for all departments to be working together. And I just wonder and you just say that in there that the project requires cross-directorate approach.
So this one hasn't progressed in the same way integrated planning as it. The development of sort of data governance and consistent data standards is a significant project, and I think just in terms of where we're at resource wise and in terms of the pressures that we are trying to manage within budgets, we haven't been able to commence that project yet. So it is something we will have to tackle at some point because it's in this review and it is a specific action, and we have assessed it as something that will have high impact and high value. So ELT at some point are going to need to put a bit of a plan together for that, and ultimately agree to reprioritise some of our existing funding so that we can deliver that, or come back to council with an outline of what that project would look like, what it would deliver, and what we're asking to deliver it. We just haven't done that piece of work yet.
Right. So you're anticipating doing that when? What's your...
I can't answer that. Sorry.
No.
It'll be one. I'll take note of that, and when I report the efficiency review again in the next term, I'll make sure that there's a sort of signal there about when we think we might be able to tackle it.
Yeah. And you may need help to reprioritise stuff. Strategic directions.
Yeah.
Thanks, Richard.
Councillor No.
Thanks, Madam Chair. My question's just in paragraph 14, the second part of paragraph 14, where it just references the time that buses depart and Whakatabu terminus, and then the last sentence, similarly, there is potential risk with on-time departures from the Dunedin terminus. I'm not aware of any major roadworks like a BP roundabout in Queenstown, but is that comment just relates to the day-to-day peak traffic times, or and unfortunately Anita's not here, but I'll just ask her when she comes back.
No, look, I think Andrew, you're right. There is no forecast. We know we're through the George Street work, which was obviously the big issue. There is potentially work coming up on State Highway 1, and we also know that Dunedin have a significant Three Waters infrastructure program, some of which is through the Central Sea. So I think it's just flagging that if there was work within that vicinity at each end of the bus stop, it can have a significant impact on timing. But you're right, at this stage, we don't have a BP roundabout happening in the middle of Dunedin, but we're just conscious of the impact that anything in and around the area, because it is quite constrained.
So, thank you.
Councillor Weir, were you next? Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually on pretty much exactly the same thing. I just wanted to confirm my understanding that in the background we've sort of been working on some updated data systems that might help us have measurements that are not just at the terminus, but other areas
Yeah,
as well.
look, it's probably a little outside the scope for me. I know there was a conversation about this at the public and active transport meeting, and I know that Julian and Jack and Gemma and other members, but those three in particular of the transport team are doing a huge amount of work on getting better data to be able to measure travel times and understand where our pinch points are and what areas of the network are impacting our ability to meet the timetable. So they're constantly working on that, and we've got better opportunities with real-time tracking and things now. So those sorts of things should start to show in future reporting.
Awesome, thank you.
Happy to move.
Yep. Moved by
Second.
councillor Noon, seconded councillor Malcolm. Yeah, sure.
I know there'll be a lot of thank yous today, but I've got to take this opportunity now, but I just want to acknowledge Richard. I know you haven't quite finished 3 years yet, but you're pretty close to it. And as you say, the workload has been huge. And yeah, just really, and passing that down to ELT and all the staff that sit below the third tier managers and everyone else below that as well. So, you know, it's been a real pleasure. So thanks very much.
Councillor McCall.
Yeah, thanks. I'd just like to support what Andrew's just said, but I think, Richard, you have made a big difference since you've come to the table and you've brought like a real open communicative approach to the job and, you know, really connecting. But I must say, you're only probably as good as your people that are behind you as well. So you've got the ELT in behind, and I'd just like to take a wee minute to congratulate them for in a lot of cases stepping up into higher roles and all something from the same hymn sheet, which is really good. And particularly the way that we're now interacting with our public a lot better, and but we're also interacting with the council table a lot better as well, which is really good. And right through the quality of the reporting, etc., has been massive improvements, which makes our job a whole lot easier. And I'd also just like to support what Ellen said about our chair as well, which she cut us off pretty quickly. Thank you.
Richard doesn't get the ability to cut you all off. Any more comments at this point? Richard suggests I should plot it now, which we will. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, so then we have got recommendations at 9.1 and 9.2. Somebody care to move the recommendations of audit and risk? First of all, councillor Mepham, seconded councillor Malcolm, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. 9.2 is recommendations of environmental delivery. Councillor McCall, seconded councillor Forbes, all in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Yeah, that is that. No more recommendations. Moving on to annual report. Thank you for waiting patiently while we brought another paper forward.
Can I just ask, does anyone want a manual copy of the PDF adjustment that was emailed? I've got a manual copy here if you. Yeah.
Right, yeah,
Right.
just
Anyone else
adjustments
like
to the annual report.
Oh.
Thank you. Should be fairly straightforward at this point, but Nick, would you like to introduce?
Yeah, the paper is fairly brief. So this went through, the annual report went to audit and risk last week. So there was good discussion by the audit and risk subcommittee. As a consequence of that, there was a couple of minor tweaks. We've also done some further reviews over the last week, and Deloitte have been feeding back anything that they've found around any changes in the numbers. So you did receive a copy of the annual report that was sent out. We then emailed earlier just a PDF of half a dozen pages, relates to 4 points where there was some changes in some of the disclosure notes. There might have been some other minor changes just to some of the tables. If the total didn't add up, we didn't highlight those ones. They're really just minor editorial amendments. But those ones that you've got, the 4 changes, those were ones where the numbers were, they moved by slightly bigger amounts, like one in the copy that got sent out. It had the number in millions instead of the decimal point was in the wrong place. So those have been pointed out. Some of the other ones, obviously, if you make one change, it might flow through to a couple of pages where it'll change subtotals and various things, but none of them have changed the substance of the financial result that's recorded in the statement of comprehensive revenue and expense, or the statement of financial position, or the balance sheet. Paper also notes, for those of you that weren't there at Audit and Risk last week, then in that case, the financial result you would have seen would have been back in the Finance Committee. From that point, and we noted this at Audit and Risk, there has been about $1 million in adjustments to the surplus, and it has decreased, primarily because of a couple of accounting changes. One was just the restatement of capital expenditure, which was where we'd showed the IRIS project costs through the year, because that's where we had it budgeted, has now been recorded as operating expenditure. And in the Finance Committee, we did include the value, we did have entered in the adjustment for the fair value of the interest rate swaps, but the debit side of it was in the balance sheet when it should have been in the P&L. It had just gone to the wrong code. So we corrected those. So that has meant that the from what we disclosed at Finance Committee, the overall surplus has dropped back by just over $1 million. But we went through that with Audit and Risk last week. Audit and Risk was comfortable with the accounts as they stood, and since then we've made those changes that we've tabled, and did make the change to the forward that was discussed in the meeting as well.
All right, any questions? Councillor Noon.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Consider the IRIS project going from a capital item to an operating expense. Does it still end up being depreciated? It does.
Yeah, well, that's why we had it in the LTP as a capital project, and Deloitte did note that in their management findings that it should have been OPEX, but the overall impact wasn't material. So we left it there, and then we reported it as capital through the year, because that's where we had it budgeted. For the annual plan this year, we've now included it as operating expense, and we've assumed that it's reserve funded. So the primary reason for wanting to report it as capital expenditure is that then we can expense it over a longer period. What we're now doing is we're now doing that effectively just by reserve funding it, and then we'll recover the reserves over the life of that asset.
Thank you.
No other questions? Somebody want to move the recommendations?
Happy to move.
Councillor Malcolm, seconded Councillor Metham. Councillor Malcolm, would you like to speak?
Oh, no, well done, team. It must be, as soon as those good people, and they seem to be reasonably good people that come in from the auditors, we have very good interaction with them at Audit and Risk, which is, it's always just about on the same points, which also is really good. They're not negative points, they're just interpretations. So that's really good, and they give us good, clear answers. But I just read that the second last paragraph, we consider that the financial statements and the statement of performance adequately disclose the circumstances and any uncertainties that we can reasonably be expected to be aware of concerning the adoption of the going concern basis of accounting by the Otago Regional Council and Group. So they're saying, well done, they're happy. So we're happy and well done. Thank you.
Gary, anyone else? Councillor Metham.
Yeah, I'd just like to endorse that. It's been a robust process. The council is managed financially well. And thanks to your team, Nick and Sarah, for getting this all together. I know it's tricky getting a report done in time for council to approve. And look happy with the result at the end. We know that a lot of things that were in fact out of our control helped to create that surplus. But yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, everyone. This is the end of a process in terms of what we're doing today, approving and adopting the annual report and then signing that representation letter. But I think it is worth reflecting again that it has been a really solid, good year, and just want to thank everyone, to co-chairs of finance as well, audit and risk as well, who have been involved just recently, through to the staff as well. But also just reflecting once again the actual work that was delivered over the last year. A lot of strategic work. The RPS has made significant progress through hearings. Through 2 hearings, climate change strategy, and an organisational greenhouse gas emissions inventory, the draft Indigenous biodiversity strategy, which will go out soon for consultation, the Otago Harbour issues and opportunities report, and back to the flooding as well, in October floods with strong planning, hazard management, response and recovery work happening there. Public transport with record passenger numbers and new electric fleet in Mosgiel. Community environmental gains like the Waifakata Lake Hayes recovery catchment projects, partnerships with mana whenua and TAs as well. But that financial performance with a surplus achieved, definitely balancing the budget, which was a key aim that we've had to get back on track with doing that. $2 million government funding for Tairi flood and drainage channel projects, Port Otago dividend to 18 million, offsetting general rates. Careful financial management, and those cost savings will be carried forward. So yeah, again, big thanks to the staff, huge dedication. I know you've been putting in significant hours as well on this one. Auditors, thanks as well for your scrutiny and assurance. Councillors, I thank you. Funding partners as well, critical to enabling the projects that we do, and obviously most of all to ratepayers. Your investment is absolutely hugely valuable for what is achieved throughout this region and for some essential services. And we have absolute focus in using the funds wisely. So it has been a solid year of progress with careful management and constructive partnerships, and just a huge thanks on behalf of the council. Anyone else want to say anything? Councillor Callagher.
Thank you. Yes, this is a milestone. We meet annually, and this report is a bit different to the previous ones because we are showing a quite substantial surplus, and my concern would be that this is a one-off. We do have to have a balanced budget. We need to be trading in the positive. But times are tough out there. Ratepayers are not happy with the level of rates, at the level that they are at, and large surpluses need to be due to very special circumstances. And in this case, we have much going on that is a one-off, but it also could be seen as reflective of some projects not proceeding or work not being done. So there is a bit to look at, and I would certainly not be happy to see this level of surplus in future reports. Also noting too that the salary table within the report, staffing numbers and level of salaries that we pay is substantially up on previous years. So for ratepayers, certainly we have to present this report, but there will be much in there that I think will be quite concerning. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments or right of reply? No, we'll put it then. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Yeah, I'll just note that councillor Laws has left the meeting. You probably noticed when that was. Yep, thank you. Right, 8.2 is the audit and risk update.
10.2.
Oh, sorry, 10.2. Yep. I
That's
think
me.
that might be you.
Yep.
Yes.
I was just looking around to see if anything was coming up.
You don't have-
It doesn't appear to be.
Will you be ready, Tom?
Yeah, yeah.
Would you go up there so we get?
Look, I'll just present this on behalf of Andrew Douglas, who has written this report. It's a required report every year. We need to write up what we've been doing for the year. This is the only subcommittee of the council, and the members of this subcommittee: Kate Wilson, Gretchen, Kevin, Gary Kelleher, and Alexa Forbes. And we have often had others in the meeting too, so it's always good to have other councillors involved in the audit and risk. The sort of things we've looked at, we're constantly looking at our investments, performance review investment portfolio. We have during the year considered the private equity investment portfolio. We spent a lot of time looking at health and safety and well-being. Legislative compliance is another area that we have to focus on, and internal audit is something that in the next term we will be embedding within the organisation. We also address council's key risks, and obviously the annual report and the audit of that annual report. Another big task during the year was the insurance renewal, and I think we went through a fairly good process this year, appointing new brokers. So really just take the report as read and happy to accept any questions.
Are there any questions? Councillor Malcolm.
Just, and this is probably to Richard, in that we see that this marks the end of the tenure of Andrew Douglas as our independent officer on the committee. When do we, and one of the concerns that we had with that as a committee was the fact that it ended at the same time as the council ended, so we've got no continuity, possibly no continuity going through, and especially that independent would be. So where is the appropriate time, or how can we possibly resolve that issue?
So we would bring a paper early, effectively the second meeting, looking at appointments that need to be made, both internally in terms of chairs of or co-chairs of committees, but also any of our independent members, which is the direction council wants to go in. And at that time, there could be a discussion and decision on how we approach audit and risk. So it would need to wait until that point. We did note the concern expressed by the committee the other day in terms of continuity, and when we come back on that matter, we can just outline what the rules around the engagement, given that there is currently a requirement around timeframes, which Andrew's got to the end of.
Yes.
And whether there are any opportunities to do anything different to what's outlined there. So when council considers how it goes through the process to appoint that new independent member, that can be explored as well.
Thank you.
No other questions, I don't think. So
What
we
moves
can
the-
move to note.
Yeah, move to note.
You're going to move councillor Mepham. So, yep. Seconded councillor Forbes. Not sure if the presenter gets to speak as well, but they probably can if they like.
I'm just happy to put it.
Councillor Malcolm.
Look, the only thing that I'd like to say on is that the committee, we've done some pretty good thinking in there, I reckon. But in reality, we've been led exceptionally well by Andrew Douglas, and I wonder, Chair, where the appropriate point of time on how we actually acknowledge that.
I think it's the last paper.
It is on that, isn't it? So I'll leave it to that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Good to signal that though, because I think we all agree, and just again. Like to thank both the co-chairs, but yeah, Andrew Douglas, that is fantastic to have that independence and rigour as well. But yeah, thank you, Councillor Metham, too, for all the work that you've put in. This subcommittee has gone from strength to strength in terms of what it's been handling and the value that it's added over this triennium, and workload once again has been increased a whole lot as well, not just for us but for staff feeding into that, but it's been extremely valuable, so big thanks for that. All right, we'll put it all in favour, aye, against, carried. Just checking time, 10 to 3, so we'll probably jump into 10.3 community survey.
3 or 4 papers.
Falcons along. Let's give you a chance to get set up. It's always hard when you've got to come forward quickly and we start talking before you've even sat down. So yeah, whenever you're ready, have we got something to share?
Natalie's available on Zoom.
Okay. Natalie.
She shouldn't be too far away.
Do you need an adjournment? Oh, okay. Is Natalie going to introduce the whole thing? Yeah. Go for it. I'm sure you know heaps about this.
Okay, cool. Kia ora, I'm Vicky. I've been working with an amazing team on procuring the options for our next community survey. We had a really good workshop last month with quite a few of the councillors, and we took that feedback on board from that workshop and changed some questions accordingly and took notes of things for when we go out to market. So that was really useful. So we've just put everything on there and put the recommendations forward.
Right.
Yeah, happy to take questions.
Welcome, Natalie. Is there anything else that we would like to do in introducing this? We have read it and we've got the report there, and we've got Natalie as well from Versus has joined us. So you'd just like to go to questions now? Yep. Okay then. Any questions? Sorry, I don't remember my mic on. Oh, fantastic. Councillor Ware's jumping straight into the move.
I will ask a question then.
Oh, there we go. Councillor Noon.
Recommendation, thanks Vicky for the recommendation forward. This refers to the shift in timing of January 30, 2026. So can we just be a little bit firmer around kicking off late January, running through to the 3rd week in February, or is it, we haven't probably quite nailed that down yet, but can you give an indication of the preference to land and the best opportune time to connect with people?
Yeah, of course we have to consider people are on holidays, and the workshop identified students would be a key market to reach in Dunedin as well, so making sure students were available. And we have to give ourselves enough time for postage to reach people and for it to be in market for people to respond to for a month. And also we have to have the data back in so we can report to council at the end of March as well. So we need to consider all that when we go into market. So Natalie, would you have more of a specific date that you would start sending out the letters for this?
I think probably we can get a lot of it set up within that sort of December, January period, and then we would probably look to have it in market end of January, last week of January through. It needs probably about 4 weeks. So to the end, 3rd week or so of February, something along those lines. When we can leave that extended, we can open that, or I'm assuming students will be starting to return. mid-February. They might not be starting classes, but I'm hoping that they'll be back in town, you know, in that February period. So if we can sort of look at that time frame, we should be able to capture some across then.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Sunwell.
Survey will be a high priority then.
Just noting for needing to or wanting to engage with students there, have you thought, and I see from section 9 there that students' addresses are selected from the electoral roll. I guess just make sure you're aware that early next year there'll be a whole lot of students who are not living in the same address as the electoral now, as we are finding out with delivery or non-delivery of their voting papers.
Cool. So as well as sending out these 2 addresses, we're going to have a social campaign going alongside it, so that there'll be opportunities for students to join that way. And we can reach out to OUSA and the Polytech Association to help us with that as well.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Malcolm.
On that, so you're setting out 14,300. So what portion of that is going to be students in just this one wee patch?
Natalie, is that a question for you?
The samples stratified across the electoral roll, so it'll be proportionate to your TAs. We don't select based on students necessarily. We'll select randomly from across that, so it gives you a spread of that district or TA. I'm not sure. I would have to look at the census to see if we can get a gauge on what proportion should be students.
But it's done not just students in one spot, it's done students over, so it'll be proportional as compared to your role. So that's cool. But so you send me an invitation out and I'm happy. So, and I'm not a student, but I'm someone else that hasn't got a computer. So does that mean I can't partake?
No, you definitely can. So on that letter, there will be a number to contact Versus, and Versus will send out a paper copy, which you can send back free of charge.
Right. So how will you? Yeah. How will you do that with your drop-down boxes?
The hard copy will allow for that.
Your hard copy will have 1B, I think, was one of the ones. So if you tick that, you all of a sudden get all the. So you'll have all that printed out.
Correct.
Yeah. Again, I know we're talking small portions, but if we want to be truly representative, so that's good. Thank you. Accommodated. Thank you.
Councillor McCollum.
Yeah, thank you. On section 9 and 11, is the intention that we post out the letters is first one, but then we're going to have a concurrent social media program which invites people to partake directly without a letter? Is that how it's?
Yeah, that's correct. Natalie, our Queenstown District Council do this also. Natalie, do you want to give a little bit of a brief overview of how that works and how we choose who's part of the overall results?
Yeah, so that is true. That is how Queenstown runs theirs. So they, for reference, I think they ended up with about 1,700 maybe responses. So what we don't want is a flood of responses from one demographic. And the whole point of combining these methods is to get that spread. So what we want to do is, if we get more than 1,000, that's great, but we want it to be representative of the population. So these campaigns are run at the same time towards the end, and we can see the data coming in. So towards the closing of that 4-week period, we can maybe target the campaigns a little bit more to areas that may not have engaged as much if we have a lower response rate from particular areas or rural areas or, I don't know, younger audiences or things like that. So it starts off quite broad and it can move into a more targeted area to try and get that representation across the methods.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Bill, if you get a whole lot of one demographic come in, would you like scale the results or anything, or you just take what you get?
Usually we look at what the census looks like across that area, and I don't pick the ones I like. So if we've got, say, a whole bunch of, I'm just going to use this as an example, people over the age of 70, we would randomly select through those responses. So maybe if we've got 200 and we only need, I don't know, 50, we might select every fourth response. So I have no, it's not a particular, we'll take the first ones that have come in, they might be the more engaged ones. You randomly select across that to get it down to the proportions that you need.
So that's the answer to that. You so you get a proportionate survey at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody was putting their hand up to me before. Did we have someone there? Councillor Weir already? Yep. And then seconded Councillor McCall, Councillor Weir. Do you have anything you want to say?
Not too much. I think we covered most of the discussion in the workshop that we held. Covered, why we're looking to move to a slightly different methodology, and some of the benefits of that, some of the downsides of that, and some of the ways that we can mitigate those downsides. And I think we all understood why and accepted that. So very happy for us to move forward with that today. Not really much else to add. Kia.
Thanks. Nobody else looks like they would like to speak. So we will put all those then, all in favour, aye, against, carried. Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. Thanks everyone else too. Thanks, Vicky. Okay, at this point, I think we're going to adjourn for 15 minutes. Yep, we're allowed 15 minutes. So we'll come back at quarter. Well, we have got quite a heavy agenda, but I think 15 should be okay. So yeah, we'll be back at 3:15. I can put that. Somebody's going to second it. Councillor Forbes, all in favour. Aye, against, carried. See you 3:15.
Your name was
A
Frank.
little bit after 3:15, but we're back. So yeah, we're on to 10.4, which is rescue helicopter donation, and I have had a foreshadowed motion which is coming from Councillor Malcolm. So when the time is right, I'll ask Councillor Malcolm to present what that is. But otherwise, the report writer for this is Nick. And do we need to say anything about this? It's probably pretty obvious.
Yeah, I probably haven't got much to add.
Yeah.
The paper sort of, it is pretty brief, covers it. If there is anything more, I don't know whether Richard's got anything to add, but yeah, we're just looking to pay the helicopter donation out of reserves this year. And then the recommendation was to look at it, bringing it back into the next annual plan. But I believe that's what the foreshadowed recommendation's about.
Yeah, so I'll ask Councillor Malcolm to outline what it is about. Just give you a chance to bring that up if you haven't got it up.
Right, I have got it up, and
Okay,
does
great. But we can
Corey
have
want to put-
questions.
Yeah, your
if
questions
that's
first. Yep.
Okay, first of all. So I guess what the one question is that I have been asked is when are payments normally made to the Rescue Helicopter Trust? Annually, quarterly? How does that work?
Quarterly.
Yeah.
Last year, because we were in the process of transitioning it, they got a bit behind. But in the past, what they've done is they've always invoiced us quarterly at the start of each quarter. So assuming this came in, then there'd be a catch up and sort of get 2 quarters probably in October, and then we're just into January and April.
Thank you. No, I can't see any other questions. So Councillor Malcolm?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, this is a very, very important part of the services that the Otago Regional Council provides to its ratepayers, and that's the funding of that $350,000. We have had written into the statement of corporate intent from the port that they provide that funding directly, and they have offered to do that. Between the port and the trust, they have had some difficulty in coming to a conclusion that actually can happen. And the proposal that I will get Corey to put up in front will be to, 1, note this report, 2, to approve the donation of $350,000 to the Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust, and 3, I've just got to open, 3 will be to instruct the chairperson and the chair of the Port Liaison Committee to meet with representatives of Port Otago and Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust to discuss future donations and how to achieve the request set out on the letter of expectation from Otago Regional Council to the Port of Otago that we did, dated 25th of February 2025. At that time, we did that because of the advantages to our ratepayer, of the advantages of port to increase that, and of the advantage, certainly tax advantages, and certainly it seemed a very fitting way to do it. But what we have in this process, we have not had a governance ear within that negotiation, and we believe, or I certainly believe, that it's time to sit with the chair and the chair of the Port Liaison to sit with the port and the Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust to enact that and make it the very best possible way for our ratepayers and for the trust.
Happy to second, Madam Chair.
Councillor Noon's happy to second for the record. Right, so that should be fairly clear then, unless there's any points of clarification. Yep, so otherwise, anyone want to speak to this then? Yep, Councillor McCall.
No, just a question. It's all very well, but I'm just wondering about where Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust sits in all this, and whether, rather than going to getting them all in the room up front, whether we need to see them individually, see where it's at individually first.
So my advice on that is there's been a number of conversations. We have a very good relationship with the Helicopter Trust, and I don't think that there would be anything wrong with inviting them to a conversation. We meet with them. Obviously, they're here tomorrow. They come in annually. There's discussions through the year at a staff level. The move is right that to date the conversations have been either myself or Nick. And there's no harm in governance being involved in those conversations. So my advice is that there's nothing too onerous in that recommendation, or that nothing that would put the relationship at risk. It's more around the statement of expectation and then the statement of corporate intent, which stated something that hasn't been able to be achieved, and investigating how that could be resolved in future years, which as I understand is the intent of the motion.
Thank you.
Councillor Malcolm, are you wishing to clarify?
I was just more to talk to that, to the exactly what the CE has just said. While it says, it actually doesn't say that we necessarily have to have them both in the same room at the same time. But I think at the end of the day, to get a final resolution, we may have to. So it's meet with representatives of Port Otago and representatives of, it doesn't necessarily say we're going to put them both in the same room together. So I think the judgment of the chair and the chair of the Port Liaison Committee at that appropriate time when that happens will use their best judgment to say, yes, we have an individual talk first, and then let's get together and sort it out. So not that maybe, yeah, that would be the intent of it.
Councillor Callagher, and just clarifying that at this point we are in debate, but in understanding, if you need to understand the motion and how it works, you can have points of clarification to staff once we're in debate. So if you want to debate, though, go for it.
Yeah, so we're debating the amended or the new motion. And look, I went to presentation of the Otago Southland Rescue Helicopter Trust in Queenstown, and as they all are very positive, they always have more exciting stuff to say to us. And but we sit with one of the most possibly globally best rescue services for a small little region like us. It is utterly astounding what we provide, and other regions, I'm sure, with one or two machines would not be in the privileged position that we are in, and that is purely because of every aspect of it works. We have a trust able to administer, we have all volunteers within the trust apart from the one paid employee, and we have an incredible operator. And so one of the key aspects I've always seen in my time on council was that contribution that Otago can make, and it's now Otago Southland, can make to assist with that trust. That is guaranteed money that the trust knows will come in every year. And to me, it's been a big bugbear that it hasn't had an inflationary increase, which we are now looking to add. It worried me when we looked to move this to the port, just because the port is a provider of funds and has access to different funds than we have. To me, this is one service, one provision of service that's not a direct ORC provision of service by staff, but it is one that either amongst ourselves across the region, either us, we will all be associated to somebody who has had a benefit from this service, and we are very lucky to have it. And so I have seen the ORC as the best nurturer of that fund, as opposed to sending it to a subsidiary of us, because then it really is down to the mercy of 7 directors, or the X number of directors, 6, 7, as opposed to councillors who will speak on behalf of their communities. So I won't support this motion. I think we have attempted to move it to the port and it hasn't worked, and those volunteer trustees have had to try and in good faith come up to a new arrangement that hasn't worked. And so I think we need it back in-house, and we can protect it into the future with its inflationary increase. So yeah, I won't support the motion as it's currently put. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Laws. Yeah, debate. Councillor Cole, me from the unknown.
I'll just support what Councillor Kelleher was saying. I think there's been plenty of discussions between Port Otago and the rescue helicopter, and it obviously haven't come to a conclusion. I think the rescue helicopter is integral as part of Otago's DNA, and we all treasure it. And as Councillor Kelleher says, we probably all know people who have personally been had the benefit of the helicopter trust. I think the original motion, I think we bring it back in house and we own it as Otago Inc., which is the regional council's port. The new motion worries me that it's just going to put in another layer and a whole lot more delay and create angst. I think we just need to be decisive and say we're going to send a really clear signal to the Otago Rescue Helicopter Trust that you'll get our ongoing support, inflation adjusted. So I would support the motion, but I would support 3.
Sorry, thank you. Councillor Meetham, oh no. Yep, it was Councillor Meetham next, thanks.
The donation of this 350,000 is not at risk, and neither is the support of the helicopter trust. So let's not try and elevate it to that level. The method of delivery just needs to be resolved between the ORC and the port and the helicopter trust. So there are commercial advantages for the port to do this. Let's just work that out. I'll support the motion.
Councillor Noon, then Somerville.
I support the continuation of the arrangement that we have had for a number of years, and we also consulted on in that last annual planning process, and I appreciate that the 24-25 year that there wasn't an agreement in place, and we accepted that and paid the money over directly from the ORC. But our SCI with statement of corporate intent clearly indicates we have an agreement with Port Otago to deliver it. The letter of expectation also clearly indicates they will deliver it, and that's what we want. And we're consulting with their community. So I can't see any reason to change what we'll be doing.
Councillor Sunbold.
Look, I agree actually very much with what Councillor Meetham said. We're approving here the payment in this financial year's, and then meeting with representatives of the port and the helicopter trust is not committing us to anything, but it's opening up some communication. So I'm happy to support this amended recommendation.
Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think this is a communication thing that will clear up nicely once we get the parties talking, and I am hesitant to put it at this point on the votes. I think this is a better way of doing it. Thank you. I will be supporting it.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd just like to say that absolutely support the words of Councillor Kelleher around the importance of the rescue helicopter for the region, and the fact that over the years we've had absolute support through LTPs from the community for their investment in this. However, we have also had an agreement through the SCI that we would look towards Port of Otago becoming a contributor to the Rescue Helicopter Trust, and that was agreed. So it hasn't come together, and we need to go back to the point that the people of Otago absolutely value this service, and we need that to be sustainable and to be simple. So if in the long term it comes back to the council, which it needs to do immediately because we're behind in payments already, so that needs to happen. However, we have an agreement through the SCI that the port was to contribute a dividend and this. So let's have a talk around that, and perhaps it needs to come back to the council then. So yeah, this doesn't commit us to anything particularly. It just commits us to having a chat, and I think that's really important. We need to commit though to funding the rescue helicopter for the people of Otago, because that's what we promised that we would do. And sometimes it doesn't work out between different parties in terms of how they're structured, and that's okay. But it's our responsibility, I think, to fund that ultimately, however works out best. So let's just go with 3 would be my thoughts on that one, but everyone's entitled to their own vote. Okay, anyone else want to speak? No. Okay, well, I'm going to put these separately, shall I? Oh, sorry, right of reply. Sorry, Councillor Malcolm.
Yeah, thank you for your words, Chair. Look, this is 1, there's a bag. 2, we're continuing the payment and we're making sure that they get the payment quarterly when they require it. 3 is about honouring what is in the statement of corporate intent and also ensuring the best possible way to fund the helicopter trust to the best advantage of our ratepayers long term. So, yeah, I believe 3 is a very, very good step in doing so. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, putting them separately is best, isn't it? I think so. We'll do number 1. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Number 2, approving the payment of a donation of $350 from general reserves. We'll put that. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. And now we're up to 3. And you can read that there. I don't need to read that out. We'll put that. All in favour? Aye. Against?
No.
We'll have a division, I think.
Okay. Councillor Forbes? Yes. Councillor Gallagher?
No.
Councillor Laws?
No.
Councillor Malcolm?
Yes.
Councillor McCall?
No.
Councillor Methven?
Yes.
Councillor None?
Aye.
Councillor Robertson?
Aye.
Councillor Somerville?
Yes.
Councillor Weir?
Yeah.
Okay, 2. So I've got 7 in favour and 3 against.
Motion carried 7-3. Brings us to the end of the paper. Thanks, Mr. Donnelly. Well done, community transport trial. We're up to 10.6, working together across councils. Welcome, Mariana and Amanda. Familiar with the speaker, and yeah, just whenever you'd like to perhaps introduce the context of the paper and where it came from.
Sure. Am I needing to flicker on? Thanks all. This paper was requested in a few different places along the way, so definitely an end of triennium moment to pick up on all of those comments that you may have had about how we are working together across councils, but especially to look ahead to some of the ideas we have about picking this up again in the new triennium. You'll be aware that we have quite a constrained time frame to come together as new councils, all 6 new councils, work out what it means to be councils in and of yourselves, but also what those connection points are, and then sign the joint agreement, the triennial agreement, sorry, by the 1st of March, which comes around very quickly with Christmas in between and meetings not really getting underway in the new year at the same time at each council. So it's a great opportunity just to remind you that this will be happening, and for those who want to reflect on the year, I'm very happy to have those thoughts ready to feed in as we do get underway.
Any questions? Probably just a black and white is what it is type of paper in terms of our interaction between councils, and thank you very much, Mariana, for pulling that together. There's actually a lot when you look at it there on paper.
Yeah, I actually have something.
Councillor Forbes.
Apologies, I've kind of lost
Oh,
where
anyone
my
else?
question was, but here it is.
Come back.
Oh, yeah, no, I was thinking about this there. It felt like the cross-council collaboration, and I think this has been shown in some of the regional deals discussions, needs to be greater, and it probably needs to be guided by that triennial agreement. And there needs to be kind of this sort of look at what might be amalgamated. And I know that's stepping way ahead of where things are going, but I just do think that getting ahead of that conversation between all the councils isn't a bad idea. There needs to be a greater shared purpose to strengthen the relationships between the councils and between the different communities. So I support a much broader
question at this
framework.
point.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Have you thought about this, and how might you recommend that those things are done? I was getting there somewhere, I think. Had lost my spot there. I knew I had something on that, I couldn't find it.
I have touched on those matters right at the end in 23. Definitely agree that we need to know what it is we're doing across councils. And I think in terms of sequencing, we probably need to get the agreement in place and acknowledge the why we're doing this and that we want to do it. Get everyone in the room, but then think very carefully about what we do once we're in there and what those areas of focus need to be. I think you mentioned structural matters, that we know that Southland is having those discussions and that ECAN has been leading some of those discussions in Canterbury. So I wouldn't be surprised if once everyone's sitting down and looking at the matters that come to the top of the list for working together, that structural matters, I would be surprised if they weren't on there. Wouldn't be surprised if they were on there.
I could move it while we're at it if you were.
Yeah, if others have got questions, that's good. Otherwise, moving it so people can speak is fine. Yep, looks like questions though. We've got Councillor Malcolm, Nicole, and someone over here.
Page 113 is around the mechanisms to explore issues and get things going and all that sort of stuff. So from that, what are the mechanisms and what benefits have been achieved, i.e. cost reductions and removal of duplication throughout the provinces?
You mean what do I mean when I say mechanisms?
Oh yeah, what have we been using?
Yeah.
And what outcomes have we achieved in the way of cost reductions for councils or removals of duplication between councils?
The mechanisms I'm referring to there are the triennial agreement. Sorry, the triennial agreement, but all of the things that are set out in the triennial agreement. So we've got the mayoral forum, the CE forum. We have quite a number of joint committees that those aren't really recognised as such because they come under bespoke legislation. So the Civil Defence Joint Committee and the Transport Regional Committee. We also have quite a few cross-council working groups that involve staff, but some that involve councillors as well. So the public and active transport working groups, I believe they're formally called, but they could have another formal name. Apologies if they do. Are the examples. So all of those are the mechanisms for working across councils. Now we of course have the Regional Deal Joint Committee as another addition to the list. In terms of where we've saved reduced duplication, I think in a staff sense that happens on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis. Every one of those cross-council staff meetings is an opportunity for a staff member to realise that something's already been done by another council, someone at their counterpart in another council, and that can reduce duplication in that way. I think the best example of cross-council high-level reduction of expenses would be the water services reform, where we initiated a single analysis that applied to all councils, not so much of a big deal for ORC as it was for the TAs. But another example is, of course, the solid waste and recycling staff member that we have and the work that she's doing to really just do things once that would otherwise potentially be done by all 5 councils. Again, it's a role that probably has more impact for the TAs, but it's very clearly reducing duplication there. She's been doing a lot of things that would otherwise have to be picked up by every single one of those councils individually. So apologies that that's not quantitative, but hopefully it's a qualitative answer.
Yeah, that's good. The only that I add to that, I think there has been a significant focus this term on Three Waters, and so that has led itself more to joint work amongst the TAs, and there was a significant amount of collaboration which would have saved all of those councils a lot in terms of not duplicating the professional services advice they were getting, the legal advice they were getting. A lot of that work was very impressive the way they structured that. For us, looking forward and making the most of some of these ways of working, RM reform is one where we will be able to benefit from a much more sort of together way of working, and we've got staff involved in a cross-council resource management group currently, and that is the sort of thing that will deliver some efficiencies and some savings for this organisation. So there definitely are opportunities there, and I think water services and the work that the TAs did really show that if you commit to working collaboratively, you can find ways of doing things much more efficiently.
So it would be great to see some quantitative results at some stage that those actions are heading towards, or outcomes that we're trying to achieve by doing something, and then seeing the result of that. So for instance, in the waste one that you've done, who set those priorities for what the waste person's doing?
The waste officers' priorities come to the CE forum in the second quarter of every year. So all 6 of the chief executives review those priorities on behalf of the 6 councils and approve them for the year to come. So that did happen this year for the first time. She's been in her role for a little over a year, so yeah, we've had that happen once.
So has that ever come to us to decide that this is the ORC's position on waste, and has it come to?
I think it doesn't for her role specifically. That's how she as an individual staff member works. So I think that would be probably too detailed a question to bring to elected members. The work that she's doing on structures for working together across councils on some of the more complicated, potentially infrastructure related questions, certainly have a governance component, and options to address those I'm sure will come to council when they're available for consideration. But in her specific role and her day-to-day work, it hasn't come to council. I don't think it would really work to bring that to 6 councils. It's just a bit too detailed.
And just further on that same page, sorry, so what work has currently been undertaken by that economic development working group, and who is that group? The Otago Regional Economic Development Working Group. Who are they, and how does that work?
That's the ORED working group for short. ORED is staff managers, economic development managers from each of the councils, plus the strategy manager from ORC. And so it is primarily a collegial group at the moment. It doesn't have its own resources. It has very small resources to put towards quite specific projects. So it's quite different from a regional development agency, which some regions do have. What it does is connect the economic development agencies at each of the councils. So in terms of again, we were talking before about the priorities for next triennium. I suspect, again, with my very careful caveat that I don't want to determine in advance what the priorities for next training will be. Again, I'd be very surprised if regional economic development didn't make the focus areas that we want to really bring to the fore next time, because there've been a lot of comments and ideas about how that might work better.
Thank you.
I think that the thing there, Kevin, to note is there's a big difference between sort of informal collaboration and really committing to work together under either a joint committee or a partnership model, and putting some governance backing behind it and giving it some teeth to actually go out and get some work done. And that's a conversation that the CEs have been having, is that we work informally very well in a number of areas, but we don't do a lot of really structured. The regional deal joint committee is probably other than the standing ones around regional land transport and civil defence. The regional deal joint committee, which is sub-regional, is the first time we've moved into that space in my time. And we have started to get some pretty clear messages from central government that we need to be better in Otago at being joined up and starting to deliver some messages. And that's going to require more of a commitment to formally work together rather than informal.
And I suppose the mechanism to ensure that formality, I suppose.
That would always require council sign off.
Yeah, but
so
that's the trade agreement. Thank you.
Or a dedicated paper if we're looking to establish formal committees.
Thanks very much for it. Thank you.
I remember if we had other hands up. Council, where did you? Yeah.
I don't know if I have my hand up, but I do have a question. It was around the waste minimisation stuff as well. I just was curious if there was any thinking around a regional waste strategy, just I guess reflecting on some of the difficulties local councils are having in that space and how those issues do scale across forward. If that is something we've thought about at staff level, whether that's something that would require some governance. Kick off.
I think one of the challenges there is there are rules about setting up your strategic framework under the Waste Minimisation and Management Act that councils need to follow. So it's quite a prescribed process. The council did go partway down that road together and then choose to move into separate strategies, or I believe they have a specific name, and apologies, I can't remember what it is. But you need to produce a specific formatted document under that act. So I think that they work together to the extent they could, and will be, there's definitely opportunity, especially as thoughts about working together at a governance level progress, that would allow you, much more scope to think about what sits underneath it. But at the moment, they went as far as they could and then didn't, but not without considering those options. Sure. Yeah.
Councillor McColl.
Yeah, my question is pretty close to answering it, I guess. But you see, because we're going into a period of change, it seems to me like at the Mural Forum, it's called a Mural Forum, but it seems to be more like the CE people, the CE and the staff doing all the foruming and doing the work and getting in behind it, whereas the actual elected representatives don't seem to have a large role from what I can work out. Do you think there's any opportunity of like formalising per se, like working groups or the Mural Forum and a larger coming together to look at local body politics change or the future RMA or whatever, rather than just, I'm not too sure. Yeah. Do you think there's a possibility that there might be an appetite for coming together, like getting?
Yeah, I do. And I think that's a conversation that will need to happen at the first Mural Forum, which will be the mayors and chairs, whoever they may be, is starting to talk about how do we go from collaborating to more formal structures in some of these areas, and future of local government would be one, regional economic development would be another, and I'm sure some others might come out as well. Currently, in terms of the kind of the CEs do drive a lot of the work as following up on the things that are discussed at the Mural Forum, but we're always very careful to ensure that anything we're doing is consistent with the direction we've been given by our individual councils. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think there is definitely an opportunity, as I touched on before, though, to have more formal structures that involve governance in some of those areas.
So there would be, there's something that you'd have as part of, or you'd advocate for to be in the triennial agreement to form those sorts of structures? Is that sort of thing that you would put in those agreements?
That's exactly right. That's what I would like the triennial agreement to do better for that foundation so that we know what our options are, what the mechanisms, that word again, I don't know if it's the best one, but the different ways, different structures, the different formal and informal structures that we have that would be suitable for different types of different matters. Then you can look at what those matters are that need attention and decide on the right structures accordingly. But the triennial agreement can introduce the commitment and the expectation that those are all there to be drawn on, because we don't otherwise have a good way of collecting all of those ways of working. If people haven't seen them in person, they might not know that they exist. So I'm hoping that the triennial agreement process does that.
So working governance groups can get away from online, might actually talk about stuff without, what normal.
With the right
Well,
mandates that
influence
give
laws.
everyone confidence that it's being done appropriately, all of that is what we need for it to be a success. And everyone needs to buy in for that to work as well.
Need to do that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Comment on this, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks, councillor No.
I like where this is heading. I think that the framework or mechanism, whatever you like to call it, under the triennial agreement will give some sort of teeth for to get stuff done, which is cool. My question is to do with the urban development or national environmental standards for urban development, the requirement to work together to develop spatial plans also currently exists. So that's another activity we've been involved in, certainly in Dunedin, and we didn't quite get over the line in Queenstown, but there were reasons why that didn't happen. But yeah, just wanted to make that point. Sorry, it's not really a question.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you. We are noting the report. I can move that. Somebody seconding, Councillor Weir, and just want to thank you, Mariana, on behalf of our council for all the work that you have done over the last 3 years as well. Yeah, I can see that we've got a really good platform to build on for the next triennium, and you're a big part of that. In your vision around how we could structure some of the ways of working together. We've got some good examples, and often we leap to mayoral forum and that's it. But actually a triennial agreement is about all of the different ways that we could work together. We've got quite a few of them that are written down there already, right from the joint committees where we do both have we've all got decision-making capabilities, to staff working together, to regulatory requirements such as those future development strategies, all sorts of ways that we work together and the ways we want to work together, like enviro schools, civil defence and choosing to fund together as well. So yeah, thank you heaps for what you've been doing. I really like the idea of more structure and more focus as well around what we can achieve, because as we spoke about earlier today, Otago is obviously the best region in New Zealand, and we just need to be shouting that a little bit louder and making sure that we're putting the hard work in together to ensure that that's actually a reality too. So that's going to take all of the councils, and it's going to take a lot of focus on outcomes rather than egos, and getting down and putting in a lot of hard work. So I think there's a good platform there, and you're going to be a big part of that. So thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Forbes.
I'll just add to that. I think it's you've done an amazing job on this over the years, and I think it is definitely past time probably to move beyond the mayoral forum. I think we now need to get councillors involved in this and bring it down through our organisation and have these discussions out in the community as well. Otherwise, things are going to come as shocks to people, and they shouldn't. So I'd really like to see that carry on, and my thanks too for your work.
Councillor Noon.
Probably just offering the chair some support in regards to how challenging the mayoral forum is. You've got 6 opinions around the table from a governance perspective. You've got the 6 CEs around the table. No, I'm not speaking to them at this point, but Just coming to Lloyd's point, it's very, very difficult to get everybody on the same page. So it is a bit of a talk fest, and I think that moving towards a more structured mechanism to actually trigger activities which will then force each TA and the regional council to have some sort of formal adoption of something that will create a project or support a project, provide the resource for a project, because the Mural Forum, apart from Mariana's administration support, there's very little budget there. There's very little ability for one member of that governance team to come with a direction from their council. It's just not an easy process to achieve much actually in its current form. So that was certainly my experience, and the waste minimisation was a major step forward, a couple of terms ago, and everybody was actually on the same page. So there are items that certainly you will get similar comments out of all members, but I'm just saying basically on behalf of Gretchen, it's a tough space to be in the current sort of format and the way it's operated.
Thank you. No further comment on, Councillor Paul.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andrew. I understand what you're saying there and take it on point, but I think it's about time that we actually, at that level, we probably diverge away from politics and egos and get down to governance, and we actually have to start working together as governors and not leave our baggage at the door when we walk in. And I think it's important we also follow the transport lead and go across boundaries as well. We can't just think about just Otago. We actually have to think about working together across our boundaries so that we actually have governors and we actually, as a local body entity, we actually have governors that get together in the same room and actually start nutting a few things out for what's best for our total region, which is, be it Otago, be it South Island, be it the whole South Island, who knows. But we actually have to, if we don't do it, we're going to be the ones that are going to miss out. So I think people actually have to get on the job and actually get in the room. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor McCall. I'm about to put it, but just in write a reply, I really appreciate everyone's comments on that. And I guess the key thing is that we want the best outcomes for communities, and exactly right, it can't be about egos, it can't be about individuals, it has to be about what's actually delivered best. So yeah, we do need to find a way to move forward from individuals, and I think that's absolutely right. I think that the Mural Forum and any other structure that we've got does have potential to do that with a little bit more structure, with the right data fed into it as well, so decisions are fed by some of the relevance of industry or economics in our area, how Otago works and how it works within the wider context as well of the South Island and of New Zealand, and us advocating for, sometimes it'll be for ourselves, but in doing that we'll be advocating for all of New Zealand, I think, as well. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Councillor McCall, that it's time to move on from saying that it's too difficult and actually get on with it too. So thank you. Right, we'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried.
Any reports?
10.7 is our final 6 monthly report to the Minister for the Environment under section 27. Welcome, Sir Anita. Final report. We'll read it.
Yeah, we'll just take it as read, but one small change on page 7 of the Minister's report. Since the time of writing, we've actually received 2 more consent orders on the regional policy statement, so I just want to change the 3 to a 5 of the consent orders to be. But otherwise, happy to take questions.
Can't see any questions there. No, so. Yeah, no, all looking fine. Councillor McCauley, is this a question? Otherwise we can move it.
I'll do both. So is this the end of it? So pack your pencils up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You do have other work to do, but this is the end of this particular part of this.
I'll be reporting to the minister part. I'm happy to move.
Ready to go. No comments on this? No?
Only that it really tells a story. And thanks for that.
Thank you for doing these reports over a number of years now. So they've been quite detailed at times, so on top of other workload, and I'm sure it's been really helpful to the minister who requested this and that it continue as well. Okay, we can put it then, all in favour, aye, against, carried. Thank you. Thanks. Oh,
Yeah, Alexa seconded it.
yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Thought so. 10.8, thank you, Flora. South Dunedin future, short list of potential adaptation futures. Welcome, Jonathan. Okay. Welcome along and feel free to introduce us. We understand this has been considered by Dunedin City Council as well. So over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so the paper was considered by DCC Council yesterday. They noted the recommendations, the vote was 14-1 in terms of that update. So basically, we have several touch points with the council. This is a sort of update one where we are advising the outcome of a technical assessment, and a little bit of this is a kind of no surprises, so that everyone was aware pre-election and pre-sort of February, March 2026, when we will come back with a fully developed shortlist, seeking councillors' approval of that shortlist and then to go out and engage. So this is largely giving people a look under the hood in terms of what did that process involve, what's the outcome, and signaling sort of what will be beavering away out over the next 3 or 4 months.
All right. So yeah, just that point number 7, that we're on track to produce an adaptation master plan for South Dunedin by December 2026 is a key one, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Any questions? Councillor Noon, then we're.
Thanks, Jonathan. Just on paragraph 31, it just references a sort of final engagement, and that thing's described as a shortlisted engagement. Can you just elaborate on who would be on that shortlist and whether local community members would predominantly dominate that list or not?
Thanks, Councillor. Yeah, so just to clarify, so the shortlist would refer to the shortlist of futures, so we would still do a full engagement. So all parties that we've spoken to previously, we would be looking to meet with.
Right. So, sorry, Madam Chair. If I go to the document that was circulated, the 7. Oh, here we go. So this is page 138 of the document. So this is the South Dunedin Future Program, the A4 with the various activities. It's basically the program work streams. And then, yeah, if you pop over to January, March, April 2026, shortlist engagement. So it's the shortlist. Yes. So I just immediately assumed that you were narrowing down the engagement
So that's just trying to squeeze the
You were
words onto.
shortlisting the words.
Yeah.
Yes, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, we'll still be talking to everyone.
Good on you.
Councillor, yeah.
Yeah, just are you able to share what the outcome of the DCC paper in their meeting was?
Sure. The vote was to note the paper, and the vote was 14-1.
Yeah, awesome. And then I guess on that, in future decisions, particularly when we have a master adaptation plan to approve, is there a decision-making structure already established for that? How do we anticipate making those decisions, and what happens if, if it's two councils making the decisions, if they end up with different decisions?
At this stage, we've been running a sort of parallel mirroring approval process. That's certainly something that we look at with the chief executives and the councils in the new triennium, if that was a preference.
Yeah, so Donald's right. I mean, effectively at the moment, it's been a joint program, and we've always sort of talked about the actions at the end of this program will be owned by different agencies. Either both councils could be outside of that, and there would be independent decisions to be made. But at some point, there needs to be a conversation, because the scenario you just outlined, where these actions won't operate completely independent of each other. So there is going to need to be some more collaborative conversations when we get to that point. So I think in terms of the program to date, it's worked well as it is, with experts from both councils being involved all the way through, and obviously a significant engagement component. When it comes to effectively the implementation plan and who is responsible for the actions, and how do we ensure that there's not decisions being made that are contrary to each other, there's going to need to be some conversations between this council's elected members as well as the Needham City Council elected members, to make sure that that continues to be a sort of positive move in a positive direction.
Just to add also one question, there's part of the RM reform program also involves developing an adaptation framework. Indications are MFE and central government are looking very closely at how does that adaptation planning requirements that are discretionary now, if you like, but will become sort of required, how they plug into that overall RMA framework, spatial planning and the like. So it might be that guidance comes from now to between now and when we'd be finalising the master plan.
And then just lastly, are there any, I guess, reflect on future legislation, but does that present any risks to the program as it's currently outlined, or are there any other risks that we're aware of at the moment to the program as currently outlined?
I mean, we've been operating in a period of quite a lot of legislative and regulatory uncertainty for the duration of the program, and I think the collaboration between the two councils, we've been able to make it work. So we've been okay so far, and I think we're well placed to manage and be nimble.
The biggest risk to the program is funding. Yeah. And we've all just got to be honest about that. This sort of program hasn't been attempted, and regardless of what the preferred outcomes are, there will be significant costs in order to implement them. So that remains the question, and obviously there's been engagement with central government previously, and there will need to continue to be. But I think we do need to acknowledge that is something that is going to continue to be a challenge that both councils are going to have to be considering.
Councillor Forbes, Mayor Funding, Callagher, then Malcolm.
Richard might have just answered this, and that there's no the funding is the big question. But what I do wonder is, and also saying that is this the first one of its sort in the country, this program?
We've got lots of colleagues around the country doing
similar things,
but this is maybe the largest scale and maybe one of the more complex.
Because what's interesting is that a Future 4 is the one that's come out first, waterways and wetlands, and anyone that studies water would have been able to tell you that from the start. So is all this work simply about bringing the community to the conclusion that it's possibly already there, or am I jumping ahead and asking something weird in that?
Three was
I think there's a couple of angles to that. One, absolutely, there's a big impactful decision. So we need to, take a belt and braces approach, whether that's technical, economic, political, or taking the community with us as well. I think part of this process is this program being a vehicle for having that conversation, making sure we look at all the options, kick the tires and all of those. And whatever one we end up with, we know that that's better than all of the other ones that we've looked at.
And just finally, are other ones around the country, and I do acknowledge that there's 3 in that shortlist, but in that result, but other places around the country, are they coming to the same futures, do you think?
Adaptation's highly localised. So the impacts will be very specific depending on the community, on the resources, on the hazard scape.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Jonathan, once again, excellent to see the planning that's gone on, see that it's out in 22 and it's going to end in 26. It's extensive. I was just wondering about the community feedback you're getting on this. I mean, from my point of view, I see it as being excellent. And what are you generally getting back? Are you getting a positive response or otherwise?
I mean, yes, overall, but people have diverse views. So we receive
struggling with that.
Oh no, I mean we receive the full spectrum of views. I think there's a general support for the program. There's a buy-in to what we're trying to do. There's a recognition that we're 2/3, 3/4 the way along the process. So there's an element of just kind of playing that out, and we'll get the outcome. And I think we saw from the community engagement report that we came to councils in July that people are engaging. We had very good numbers in terms of, I think, 1,200, 1,300 responses there, which is more than we've had for anything like this previously. So I think we're very much working on the basis that whatever we develop and whatever options we put up need to have been shaped in some way by the community.
Yeah. And have you got the energy and support to see this through to 2026?
Absolutely.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Councillor Callagher.
Thank you. Just on when our paper is different, I guess, to the DCC one, because we did not just noting the report, we've got a number of notings. And I see that under 4, we are still saying that Future 6 and Future 7, periods early in 2100, remain under consideration, timeframes beyond. Why are we keeping all futures under consideration? Why wouldn't we be looking to whittle the shortlist so that the efforts become more focused?
Thank you. So essentially we are whittling. So we've narrowed the focus down to futures 3, 4 and 5. So they're the ones that we're going to do a deep dive on over the next 3 or 4 months. That'll be all the modelling in terms of stormwater, groundwater and the like. What's become clear in the analysis is that while futures 1 and 2, so the status quo or the sort of infrastructure centric one, while they're suboptimal in a 2100 timeframe, so over a long term, they absolutely will have application in the short term. That's become very clear. So they're still sort of a factor in how we might move earlier on. Similarly, the retreat focused ones quite problematic. They will involve long lead-in times, a lot of change, a lot of costs. So that assessment showed that's sort of suboptimal in that 75-year timeframe as well. However, if sea level continues to rise, if we keep getting more severe weather events, there is absolutely a scenario where they would become more preferable, where the costs of building infrastructure or the green space that we might create becomes less effective, and you need to kind of move in that direction. What the next stage of the analysis is going to look at those different pathways, so that sort of 25-year increments. So this stage of the analysis looked at a slice in time at the end of the century. So I would anticipate that this next stage of work will show that infrastructure is going to play a big part in the next 25 to 50 years. That shift is there's going to be an increasing shift to green solutions, to passive systems where we can detain a lot of water, store it, so you don't have to build such big infrastructure to manage those peaks. And then we're likely to get to a point where the risks, the hazards, the water just become too great, and there's some difficult conversations about it's just going to make more sense for some people to move out of those really, really high risk areas. but that's very much going to be a kind of gradual shift of sort of more infrastructure first, you know, and it'll change over time. So that's the bit that we'll calibrate in the next phase. All of the modelling work will sort of determine what do we need to build, where and when, and how do those ratios shift. And the shortlist we'll come back to you with is essentially, you know, here's a set of ratios that are geared towards infrastructure, here's a set of ratios that are geared towards retreat, and here's a kind of mixed, a hybrid model. And because we get much more specific, because we've got modelling, because we'll have a more spatial detail, we'll be able to have tighter costs, be able to sort of point to what part of the suburb in what 25-year period, that sort of detail. So I think I think councillors around this table have wanted us to be for some time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Malcolm.
Yes, yeah, well done, good report, progress going along well, but the initial the background says that it's a joint initiative to develop a climate adaptation master plan for South Dunedin. So that's cocking along. At what stage do we move out and allow the people of South Dunedin and their territorial authority to look after the issue and it not being imposed on the whole of Otago?
So at this stage, the two councils have only committed to the delivery of this plan. So essentially December 2026 would be that point. And then, as I said, depending on government direction around how adaptation planning is going to fit into the new RM framework, that would probably dictate exactly what the roles and responsibilities would be thereafter. But as an example, we would anticipate this master plan will be finished by the end of next year. It then informs a whole lot of the next LTP planning. So the DCC 3 Waters team will look at that and say, okay, what moves do we need to make over the next 10 years? The city development team at DCC says, does this require plan changes? If so, what do they look like? And what's our forward schedule of exploring those, that sort of thing. It may be that ORC looks at that and says, okay, that might play out in a science role or a hazards monitoring role, or if we are daylighting streams or recreating green spaces that may come within the regional council's sort of area of responsibility.
Yeah, Kevin, because there's been no commitments made in terms of funding, so there's two questions that this council will have to answer when those conversations happen is do we want to take on those actions that may sort of fall within our remit, and if we do, how do we fund them?
Yeah.
And so those are the two key questions that will come out of the back of this work, is which things may be best within ORC's remit in terms of waterway management or other things, and or ongoing work from our natural hazards team, for example. And then if that's the case, how would we choose to fund them, looking at the way in which we fund work around the region.
And I suppose the converse would be funding things that aren't within our remit. We also may be asked to do.
Yes, you may be asked to.
Yeah.
Consider it.
So John, just another one on that. Where is our liability on advice that we are currently given? If that proves to be wrong, where have we got that covered? So we're putting a lot of, to me, this is there's a lot of advice going in there. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying so we're comfortable that's covered by.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's no different to all of the work programs that we undertake out of the natural hazards area, is that the advice that's provided is considered very carefully, and often when you read through those documents, it highlights the limitations of the advice being provided. We've just got to make sure that advice is of a quality and there's enough of it to enable the right decisions to be made. But this program, while it is more complex and on a different scale, is largely no different to those other natural hazard programs that we run around the region.
Yeah. So our legal team looks over to say that we're putting the right things in the right places to
They look, they're, in terms of the contracts that are provided, there's been a team that looked through those from both DCC and OSC, so I think Jonathan would be better placed on those sort of things, but those are the checks and balances we have.
Yeah, I'm probably more looking at where we're saying that you're going to need to move away from that bit of land, or we're going to cover that bit of land, or we're going to put tracks through there. So just ensuring that if we did go, I'm not saying you got it wrong, but if we did get it wrong, have we got we're comfortable there's the right wording around that to protect it.
Got an answer.
Yeah, cool, John.
Yeah, I might. So one of the things is that this works all around developing master plans. So there's several phases that would happen after this in terms of, you'd have infrastructure design processes that might look exactly where you might build something and actually draw the lines on the map. You'd have planning processes that would do similar. So this is very much a master plan for 100 years based on the best information available at this time, with sea level rise projections and all the like. So there are a series of uncertainties, assumptions, and some caveats in that. So they're all captured in the reports. I guess one of the ways we're managing that risk is that we had, an open and competitive tender process. This technical work's being undertaken by 3 of the biggest, punchiest environmental services agencies in the country. It's getting externally peer reviewed independently by another set of consultants, and obviously gets run through all the teams here and at DCC as well. So there's quite a lot of eyes that go over it, and there are all the contracts in place with these standard DCC templates.
Yeah. And probably my concern is around when the master plan is finally finished, it's going to have potentially quite dramatic impacts on people's valuations, which I would think would start bringing challenges back to us. So comfortable with what you've done. Thank you.
Oh,
Don't panic.
Yeah, you're done, Councillor Malcolm. Councillor Noon.
Jonathan, with regards to the DCC's commitment to infrastructure upgrades over the next 9 or 10 years, what ability, as you wind down over the next 12, 14 months to a conclusion, what ability would you have with the interaction with the community to share information around what that looks like in terms of dealing with, whether it's wastewater issues, stormwater issues, etc. Because clearly DCC have got a work plan in that infrastructure space, and there's some reasonably big numbers being tossed around in South D, between 9 mil and 60 odd for the whole city, that sort of thing. So will they be able to share some of that information as it's evolving? Maybe not the detail exactly where the pipes are going to be increased in size or whatever, but so they understand timing in particular. Would that be an opportunity for that?
Short answer is yes. So the DCC 3 Waters team is working through that, and they have timeframes that I think are going to align with some of the South Australian future work. As we get through these stages of the master planning process, we are having to work much more closely with the 3 Waters team, with the planning teams, to start to weave all that together. Part of that is focused on making sure that short-term, medium-term, long-term plans all align, but also to develop a better sense of what are our first moves in implementing this master plan and putting ourselves in a position where we have a project, like a launch package, for lack of a better term, ready to go when this is done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, just noting, councillor, was this me left the meeting? Okay, sorry, are you moving the?
Oh, no, I've just got a quick question.
Okay, you can move, councillor Ware, we'll go to the question.
Yeah, just quickly, because you've got your 3 pathways that you're looking at, you're going to further develop. But when in developing that, you're building a hybrid system as well. So like an actual,
Yeah, so the 3 that have been shortlisted are all hybrid systems, and yes, they'll all involve a mix of infrastructure, nature-based solutions, and some conversations about land use change and retreat. So in effect, they are all hybrids, and that modelling will also give us a sort of status quo that benchmark some of that against as well.
But at the end, you'll end up with one plan to follow, which is going to be.
Yeah, so we come back with 3 in February, March, depending on what the schedule is, subject to council review and approval of that formal shortlist. Then we'll go out and consult, engage the community. We come back in and then spend 2026 refining the 3 down to 1. And then we'll come back to council at the end of next year with that single future and that single pathway packaged up as a master plan, seek council's approval, and then depending on what the final consultation requirements might be under the new RM process, we'll then look to sort of make it official.
Yeah, so that's the next stage after making the 3 up. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Ware's moving. Who would like to second Councillor Noon? Councillor Ware, did you want to speak first? Saber, yep. Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Noon.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Great to get to this last year. So we're sort of on the home straight, so to speak. And I think the consultation has been obviously very thorough. Been lots of opportunities for stakeholders, whether they own land within South D or have an interest in some way, shape or form. Lots of opportunities for those people to engage. So that's great. I suppose the rider in the back of my mind is that the here and now, with in particular focus on the stormwater system that we know doesn't run at capacity anymore, built in 1960 or whatever, and all the hard servicing that's happened since has reduced the capacity of the stormwater system. So I'm hoping that, that's why I asked the question about the infrastructure upgrades, because I think it's really important that in tandem with the including master plan for the South Dunedin futures, is that we also have a clear direction around what needs to be done with the existing stormwater system to ensure that we have it working to capacity. If we can't get it working to capacity, as near as damn it to capacity would be really, really important. So I suppose the other thing I would also say would be with option 4, which seems to be the preferred option, and probably from a affordable perspective, more realistic. That option 4 talks about pumps and pipes, and I like to add ponds as well. And I'm not talking about ponding in a flooding situation on residential property, but ponds such as that could potentially be established in somewhere like the old Forbury Park site. So pumps, ponds and pipes are going to be critical for whatever option is decided upon in the future. But let's say if it is option 4, to me that the importance of being able to, and like I say, in tandem to deliver that particular option, but also ensuring that we maximise the capacity of our stormwater system. And for the people who live in Surrey Street, who have had an issue, a wastewater flooding issue for many, many years, and the DCC have got in the headlights, deal with that as well, and the diversion of that wastewater pipe from the Caversham Tunnel to stop the waste going through there, and diverted to the Green Island wastewater treatment plant once it's upgraded. It hasn't got the capacity at the moment, but those sorts of things will be a godsend, obviously, to the South Dunedin community. And I just like to think that although we're putting some stakes in the ground about the long-term plan, I like to also think that we get some stakes in the ground sooner rather than later for the here and now, because I think that's really, really important to most people who spend most of their day, whether it's their working life, their residential life, their social life in South Dunedin.
Who's next? Everyone. Councillor Weir.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know that dealing with natural hazards, especially the complex mix of them that South Dunedin has, is always going to be expensive. But we also know that reactive and disconnected responses, like the status quo, would sort of enable, are always going to be far more expensive than working hard on a proactive plan like the South Dunedin Future Program. The community engagement has been fantastic so far, and I do feel like there is a real sense in the community that in creating a vision for South Dunedin, we've got opportunities to actually enhance the area through the program. But that's more green and blue networks via daylighted streams that could also be used for recreation and active transport, transit-oriented development, and just a better socially connected and informed community at large through the program. I think it's great to see the program continue to progress. It sounds like we still have to figure out how the final decisions and implementation will happen, especially as it relates to funding. But it sounds like decisions at a national level will help guide that in the near future. But whatever the case in that space, looks like we're well on track for a master adaptation plan by the end of next year. And that nature-based solutions are shaping up to take a central role in that plan, as backed by the South Dunedin community and this new shortlist that we have. So excited for the next steps. Kia ora.
Okay, well, Elliot had reserved the right to speak last, so no more speakers. We have the recommendations there, which we can put all together. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. That brings us to the end of the public. Just need to get my papers, sorry.
Do we have to wait tomorrow?
We've got another paper now. It's not.
Yes, I'm going to do motions. Yes, yeah. Okay. Sorry, just getting everything sorted here. It's a little bit complex at this point. So this is the agreeing to move into public excluded or not. So I can move that we do go into public excluded for the national ticketing solution in Queenstown paper, which has been added additionally earlier on in the meeting. I also move that Roger Jones, NTS Program Director, and Paul Everett, Regional Integrated Ticketing Systems RICS Manager, be permitted to remain in the meeting after the public have been excluded. And the reason is because of their knowledge of the national ticketing solution, and it will be of assistance in relation to the matter to be discussed. And they have specific expertise on that matter. And the table that outlines the reason is to maintain legal professional privilege. Section 48(1)(a). Just checking that's all. Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's everything, isn't it? Yep. So I just need a seconder for that. Councillor Noon, put that, all in favour. Aye. Against? Carried.
So just for clarity, councillors, just in case you look, and because this was a late paper, and apologies for that, all the information we
Are
gave
we in
this.
public, Richard, now?
That's fine. The paper is sitting in the resource centre. And so for those that need it, it's in the resource centre on Diligent.
All right.